Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out. Christ is Lord.
Hello and welcome in to another episode of Offensively Accurate, and appreciate everybody for being here. It's going to be a good episode. Well, it's going to be a jam-packed episode, and I can't even feign that it's a slow news day. Today started off insane. The United States seized a Russian oil tanker, although it was just registered under Russia. There's still some news coming out about that. A lot's happening, and the thumbnail probably gives away a good bit of it. Because not only are we dealing with domestically, potentially what seems to be a civil war bubbling and growing there in Minneapolis, as well as the calls to action from Tim Walz and others, we also have geopolitically across the board action happening across Israel and Iran, action happening in Russia, action happening in the Atlantic, action happening in Latin America. There's a lot. So I don't even know where to start here, to be honest, because I originally had planned to cover a little bit of the Nick Fuentes and Joe Webben episode, and I didn't even get a chance to watch that. So we are covering everything else outside of that, to be honest with you. One other thing I would say at the top of the hour, forgive me, I think I'm losing my voice a little bit, so bear with me, is that Dan Bongino is going to make his return to podcasting today, although it won't be on his show. It's happening, I believe, actually right now as we speak at 6 p.m., going on to some random woman's channel, which is kind of typical of Dan. It's kind of gay, but regardless, I'm sure we'll see some of the opening kind of statements from Dan Bongino when he returns to the podcasting world. So I'm curious what he'll say there, who he'll take his aim at, and I'm sure he'll just make himself more of a fool than what he originally already was. Another thing I would also mention too that we're not going to cover here, but just to let it be known because it is like a media blackout on it, there was a major leftist terror attack that happened in Germany, and they attacked a power grid that left many of the residents without power. And in the aftermath of that, what was even more unfortunate was they evacuated like refugees before they evacuated the elderly and like cancer patients and such. And so there's not like a documentary, but there's people that are actively covering that right now. And I believe Keith Woods is one who's put most attention on that, which is just insane. And I think it affected, it was like 44 or 45,000 people in that area in Germany. And of course, the left isn't going to cover it, and nobody's going to cover it because obviously that would paint the left into a bad light. So we're going to rip through this real quick and we're going to get started. Right off the rip, we have Trump, who is set to ban, and there's a flurry of Truth Social posts we're going to get through, a lot of it going to the military-industrial complex, a lot of it going to Venezuela, and then one that actually started the day, forgive me, I'm struggling. The one that started the day was Trump is set to ban institutional investors from purchasing single-family homes. And in literally the direct aftermath of that, it was Blackstone got like a 9% nosedive in their stock on their price index. And so that was a good sign too. A lot of things happening. And so in the thumbnail too, now that people are making mention of it as well, the overall feeling of what is happening right now does feel like Donald Trump is basically taking control. Is this the socialist arc of Donald Trump? Now, obviously not an endorsement, but just to be objective about what's happening, is the overall message from all of these Truth Social posts and the actions happening, especially between invading Greenland and what we're doing with Venezuela, and now these tensions with Russia, and the military-industrial complex all kind of has this air of Hitler, if you will. You know, when Hitler basically says, actually, I control everything, I'm the leader here, you will do what I say or you're out. And that seems to be what we're getting right now. So we'll see what good comes from it, or if this is all just a big show in theater, but we'll see. Forgive me, I'm dying over here. Beyond that, the big featured story today will be the Minneapolis riots. We're going to cover a good bit with that. That is went from a what was expected on the ground, boots on the ground operation from the federal agents very quickly devolved into riot. And now we have Tim Walz urging Americans from across the country to resist this as well. And to add another bonus to that, Zohran Mamdani, as of an hour ago, also repeated the same rhetoric, which was that ICE murdered a woman. And so now you have Zohran Mamdani over in New York, rousing the rabble, if you will. That'll be a big featured story. There's a lot to cover with Minneapolis. Reddit is not happy with what's going on. There's calls to violence all over Reddit. We're going to have to try to walk through a fine line with this. We're going to see some of that on Reddit. I have a lot of this aggregated together. And then obviously the U.S. had seized the Russian flagged tanker, which was actually a Venezuelan shadow tanker. And it wasn't just the only one. There was actually two. The military had trailed and focused on one that was being shadowed by a Russian submarine. And that's the one that's got the biggest kind of story surrounding it. But the Coast Guard actually intercepted a second one. So there were two tankers that were seized in the last 24 hours. Beyond that, invading Greenland. Are we going to invade Greenland? Are we going to purchase it? As far as Marco Rubio put out, they have already informed Congress the full intention of purchasing Greenland. And so it seems to a matter of, we are going to do it, but are we going to purchase it, or are we going to have boots on the ground? And so that'll be kind of another through line here with all these geopolitical things. And it seems very small considered whatever everything else is going on. And make sure you smash that like button. That's one sign to show that you're not gay. And it also helps the channel too. I appreciate it though. Thank you guys. And then in addition to that, we will talk about all the massive restrictions on the military industrial complex. This is where most of the energy that this is a very Hitler-esque kind of approach or ascent right now. We also have the Iranian police commander was assassinated on video in broad daylight, and he was the person who was in charge of maintaining that the protest will not get, managing the protests and the revolt happening. Not a good sign in Iran. And I believe it was last night, one of the cities fell, and you saw some of the regime that were evacuating there. And I believe there's now talks that a second city is about to fall in Iran. And what we got from Kim.com is expect that Israel will begin striking or even nuclear striking Iran in the coming few hours. And so we'll see with that too. Beyond there, some of these smaller pieces, there was also just in the social aspect of, I don't know if we'll get time to cover it. In Practical Jokers, one of the guys from, I think his name is Sal Vulcano, or Vulcano, he had posted or his team, he says, posted a TikTok that was about his upcoming tour, because he's going to like an individual tour, I guess. And he had Nick Fuentes audio on there. And so he actually came out today and apologized for it. And so I was hoping that he wouldn't, but he ultimately did. Then we also have a smaller piece about the ex-Mossad chief talking about how they have bombs in every country you can imagine. And I guess the short takeaway from that is little hat bombs are good and big hat bombs are bad. And then one of the last things is that also there's now even more citizen journalists that are showing up in Ohio. And one of them was immediately chased out of a Somali daycare. And it looks like the word has spread around town. And I would also say this, like I said the first time, if you plan on coming to Ohio to do anything related to the Somali daycare, I'm telling you, they are not the same breed as what is in Minnesota. I've been around it for a hot minute. I would recommend that if you show up, that you are exercising your Second Amendment right. And even beyond that, I would ensure that you're not showing up with family. I would try to do it with groups of men. Just not as to say things will definitely happen, but fair warning, they're a lot more Black American than they are seemingly Somali, Minnesotan Somali. And so with that, that's obviously a huge list of stuff to get through. We're going to try to go through it as fast as we can and as quality as we can. And one other thing, this is actually a huge thing. I won't say who, but the Discord already knows that I was reached out to earlier today by a potential pretty big sponsor. And so we will see what more announcements to come with that. It was really exciting to me to see that. And I'll have more for you guys on that tomorrow, more than likely. And so with that, man, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to cover is actually how the day essentially started. And this was going to be one of the first things I had seen and one of the first kind of truth social posts that was flooding through across the internet. Now I did get brave I have a new browser, and it is Brave. And you guys can flame me as much as you want. Everybody's been asking me to switch for a long time. I did. And hopefully this works, actually, because I didn't set up all the pre-stuff I should. Okay, perfect. Here we go. This is the first True Social post that kind of shocked the internet here. And I apologize for being a super white background, but I apologize. Not apologize for the whiteness, but the brightness. And so this is what it reads. He says, for a very long time, buying and owning a home was considered the pinnacle of the American dream. It was the reward for working hard and doing the right thing. But now, because of record high inflation caused by Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress, that American dream is increasingly out of reach for far too many people, especially younger Americans. It is for that reason and much more that I'm immediately taking steps to ban large institutional investors from buying more single-family homes, and I will be calling on Congress to codify it. People live in homes, not corporations. I will discuss this topic, including further housing and affordability proposals, and more at a speech in Davos in 2 weeks. And so this is obviously a complete 180 from where we were previously. And previously, as in like 24 hours ago, or I think it's actually 48 hours ago, was when the comment came from Newswire that Trump basically said he doesn't understand why the public is so up in arms with all of the policy they're pushing forward. Now, I don't know if there was a recent Fox News segment that aired that took aim at Trump and in that comment particularly, but a lot of what's happening today seems very on the nose to like what people have been asking for, at least on the shallow ends. This is into the housing market as well too. And in response to that, what we got, this is from Zero Hedge, was that Blackstone shares, they sunk as much as 9.3% in like the immediate. Like in the hour after Trump had made this comment, 9.3% dropped on Blackstone. Now, I've not followed the other ones, but I would imagine that would also touch upon Vanguard and State Street as well. And that's a good thing. So it's single family homes. It's not like a full stop on all real estate and all the kind of the apartment. But single family homes is a good element to put at least a pause on, if you will. So it's not across the board, kind of pausing what BlackRock, Blackstone, all these kind of institutional investors are going at, but I'll take it. It's better than nothing, I guess. Not a defense of Trump, but while he's in office, we better at least be getting something. So that was a good thing. That was a good sign. That was the first one. So today started it was like really good. And then everything after there has been essentially chaotic. And so moving on to already the next story here, we have is the Minneapolis riots. And that's going to make up the majority of what we talk about here because, again, it's domestic. We'll touch on the geopolitical at the end. But here it is. Yeah, when it all isn't just talk. And let me say that at the beginning. I'll believe it when I see it, right? So when I would like to see results, and I will believe the results once they're here. But this, Nathan James is spot on. All of this is essentially, as much as it always has been for so far with the administration, is that it's been all talk. So we need to see a bit more than that. But moving on from here, though, the Minneapolis ICE shooting. And so the original report that I'd seen on this actually was that it was a ICE agent who was shot, but it was not. It was the other way around. And it was that an ICE agent shot back at a woman who was attempting to, or she did, weaponize her vehicle and try to drive off one during an operation. And so this is per Raw's alerts. This is the footage that was shown in the immediate. It was the shorter footage here. We have a longer angle, actually. I'm not going to play the audio on this one. I'll play the audio on the longer one. But it basically was in the middle of the street. She is blocking the street here. I'm going to put it bigger for you to see. But she's blocking the street here. And then she takes off there. That's a poor angle to see it from. And I don't know if this one has another angle later on. But she does drive off and she does end up hitting something later down the road. Looks like a telephone pole right there. And so in the initial aftermath, people had reported that this woman had not Minnesota plates, but she had Missouri plates. And then she was later on ID'd as, she is white and she is a white leather woman, but she was ID'd as Renee Nicole Good, per AF Post. And then Raw's Alert put up a photo ID. The woman is in question being reported allegedly, take everything with a grain of salt anymore. But that is who this woman is supposedly, is right here. Now I think right on the aftermath, you just look at that and you go immediately. She was clearly a liberal just in her ethos, the way she presents herself. Supposedly, and I think I saw a report from her parents, was that she was staying in Minneapolis with, quote, partner. And so the full video angle is here, and this is the one that we will watch. Put it on screen here for everybody to see. This is the full actual angle of what had occurred here. And so I'm going to take it a little bit beyond when it actually occurs because I don't want YouTube to be unfriendly for it. But they stop, they get out, they approach the vehicle. And so this is where I believe this officer is going to walk in front of the vehicle, which I believe is typical in these kinds of situations. So as the officer, and she immediately is clearly not. Okay, so it wasn't him. There's a guy already in front. And when does he get over there? So he's actually in front of it, and there's another officer on this side of the vehicle as well. They try to approach the vehicle. She clearly reverses, yips around, but you can see it's this officer here who fired into the vehicle. And it's after he fires, I believe, not once, but twice into the vehicle, she goes hitting. And so from here, I will play it. This is the reaction. And just so you can hear it in the audio, there is many residents, many Minnesota residents out on the streets, and it gets so much worse from here. So this is kind of what set everything off. And so in a few hours, understand that we've went from this moment in time to essentially Tim Walz declaring civil war on the federal government. And that is where we are right now.
What the fuck? You just fucking, what the fuck did you do? You are fucking criminals! You're fucking criminals! What the fuck? What the fuck? What the actual fuck? You are fucking insane! What did you do? You! Shame! 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 Shame!
And before I continue, this actual portion of this was clipped by none other. This portion of the officer walking closer to the camera was clipped by none other than one of the Krasenstein brothers. And he immediately took to X and was asking for people to dox who this officer was. And so just to know, like, it right off the rip, the tensions are just immediately back to what it feels like where they were when unfortunately Charlie Kirk was taken from us.
Shame! 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 Dude, what's happening to her? What happened?
So that's just the general kind of aftermath. It shows a fuller angle. More cars showing up, more vehicles, more people on the street. The residents are obviously up and at it. So just wanted to show you that was the interaction. That's what the majority of this is all coming from. And it's going to spell, and this is what had a domino effect later on to everything else beyond here. And so there's more video footage, and this is from Colin Rugg. And this is showing people on the street. And so I'll just read a little bit from Colin Rugg before we play the video. Let me actually clear some of these tabs out too. From Colin Rugg, said the incident happened while ICE officers were conducting raids, and it says, quote, one of these violent rioters weaponized her vehicle, attempting to run over our law enforcement officers in an attempt to kill them, an act of domestic terrorism. McLaughlin said, and I believe it's Tracy or like Taylor McLaughlin, something like that. She's like the secretary, one of the secretaries in the administration, like assistant secretary, I should say. An ICE officer fearing for his life, the lives of his fellow law enforcement, and the safety of the public fired defensive shots. He used his training and saved his own life and that of his fellow officers. The alleged perpetrator was hit and is deceased. The ICE officers who were hurt are expected to make full recoveries. And here's what I'd say too. I'm not going to take any jubilation at all in the fact that like this lady lost her life. I would say that what would you expect? These are the consequences when you act like you can act a fool and blatantly violate rules when you are surrounded by federal officers. I guess, in the most common sense, the most simple sense, what did you expect, especially if you're doing something like that? But the issue is now this will be what is going to be debated for the longest minute. And it's going to be that kind of those 20, 30 frames of when she made the choice to reverse, back up and hit the officers. And like I had said, there is a better angle. I should have it somewhere later here in the outline. This outline's massive. That shows an angle on the other side where you can clearly see that the officer was struck by the vehicle. But this isn't, again, the direct aftermath of that. And so this is where kind of these protests start, is on the sidewalk here.
Whoa! Kill someone else! Go for it! Kill someone else!
kill one person today.
Get out of the way! Get out! No, Chris, get out the way! Get out the way of the truck! Move! Move! Nazis! Nazis! Nazis!
Going down to the blow you guys' ears out.
Jesus Christ.
I want to see more of it. Okay. And so it continues. And so more footage just kept pouring out. And so this is just like, and I started gathering them. I tried to put them on the time scale of what I believe they were released and when it was continuing. But this is showing you like more officers are now showing up because those original federal guys were getting surrounded. So this is footage of the direct aftermath. I won't play this one fully, but just to show you the presence is clearly, look how many more people are there just like an hour later. Now the police are there, the Minnesota police. I think the Minnesota PD already gave out a statement. They've responded to it. You know, and we'll listen to this lady. You know, I think she was the one that was recording that video on the aftermath. Let's take a listen.
Flying by me, so I'm like, something's happening over here, so.
Yeah. And what did you see exactly
shaking.
yourself?
I didn't witness, but I talked to several people that witnessed it, and they heard the gunshot. And the one guy said that they reached for her door handle, and then she took off, and then he shot her through the windshield.
Am I muted?
And shot her in the.
Is there no sound? What's the issue? There should be sound on my end.
Face. So they're taking her on the corner there by ambulance right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here with me.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Let's not walking! Let's not walking! This is on
And it just continues from there, and it just gets getting more and more upscaled. And so the insider paper was, I think, one of the first ones to report that the woman was deceased. And then what we get from Minneapolis Mayor Frey, the guy who is racially cucked to the Somalians and worships them, what he says in the direct aftermath was twofold. One, he says the self-defense claim is bullshit, but then he continues on and tells ICE to GTFO out of the state. So here's the first statement here, just to show you how quickly the tensions rose to a war with the federal government.
They are not here to cause safety in this city. What they are doing is not to provide safety in America. What they are doing is causing chaos and distrust. They're ripping families apart. They're sowing chaos on our streets. And in this case, quite literally killing people. So they are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bullshit. This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying, getting killed. They are.
The important part is the audio. You can clearly hear the officer tell her to get out of the vehicle. Okay, interesting. Ella the Marble, looks like people are having issues. Just back out and reload it, I guess. Unsure what's going on. On my end, all the sound, I can look at, I'm watching the sound bars bounce, so it should be, it's on YouTube if you're not hearing me. Let's go back to that then. I'll go back to the original one. This is the opening one. This probably is the best audio, I would imagine. And I'm not sure why it's doing it. LOL Marble, probably because YouTube doesn't like me. I would imagine they find new, unique ways to F me. But here it is. Let's listen to the audio on this.
Get the fuck out of our neighborhood!
Out car.
You can hear it. It's very faint, but you can hear it. It's like right around here.
Out car.
Says it twice, actually. You can hear him say it twice. So that is correct. I mean, that would be her directly, you know. But there's like a basic insubordination, like not following lawful order of a police officer, something to that effect, something minor like that. That's again though. But again, they're saying self-defense is BS. Go to war with them. This was the next one from Mayor Frey, and so he starts it, but it got continued by many others. So this is him telling ICE to GTFO, which was later echoed by Tim Walz himself. So here we go.
And I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get the fuck out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite. People are being hurt. Families are being ripped apart. Long-term Minneapolis residents that have contributed so greatly to our city, to our culture, to our economy are being terrorized, and now somebody is dead. That's on you. And it's also on you to leave.
But that is the greatest point by Miles Civ. He needs to be arrested. Not only does Mayor Frey need to be arrested, at this point, Tim Walz needs to be arrested, and anybody else who is a part of that. Same thing with like the, if the police chief is in on it as well too, however low they got to go down, like all these people need to be arrested. And I do agree. I think this is a full-blown insurrection now at this point. Yeah, Satan Somali, you traitor. Yeah. And that's the thing, he needs to be deported back to Somalia if he loves it so much. And let's go here. I do have Nick's take here. Let me just put this here, because this was more recent, maybe about an hour ago or so. This is from Nick, and when was it? From 417. So he's responding to what happened about a couple hours ago. It's pretty much where I was too. And Nick says, anyone who obstructs ICE should be arrested immediately. Enough is enough. The feds have the authority to deport illegal immigrants, and Trump has a political mandate for mass deportations. This is an insurrection, and it should be put down with the full force of the federal government. And I agree. Every single one of them, all of these people. Especially when we know, like, what they're even, like, they're protecting the fraud against the taxpayers there. I mean, like, at this point, it's like, yeah, full-blown. It needs to be smacked down quick, swiftly. Let's say some Maduro operation level, like, getting involved in there. We'll see. But just to show you where Nick's take was at. Minneapolis Mayor Frey, but it's not just the politicos, the people themselves are pushing for it. So the leftist, the Antifa, the probably the paid agitators as well too, and that does seem to be who this Renee woman was, given the fact that she had Missouri plates and seemingly allegedly was only staying with a partner there in Minneapolis. Who knows? I'm sure more will come out about her as time goes on. But not to put anything on her, she is deceased, and so I don't want to say any more beyond that. I don't want to take any pleasure in that. But again, that should serve as a warning for anybody else who thinks they can just willy-nilly walk into a federal operation and do whatever they want. You are going to be treated accordingly. I don't know what else to say beyond that. But in addition, we have this streamer here, someone who I'm not familiar with, but his name is Andrew Mercado. So if anybody's familiar here in chat with whoever that is, it seems to be he's a left-wing streamer. But he said on his live stream, per AF Post of this recording here, that he planned to stalk, harass, intimidate, and physically threaten Nick Shirley and Cam Higbee, encouraging others to do so as well. And, obviously this is not a good sign to continue, but this is what the stream bit says, about a minute long.
You know what I'm thinking of doing with my media, guys? All the right-wing propaganda is harassing the fuck out of them. I'm talking tracking where they're at, and then just literally following them with a feed. They can't fight, so they'll have security, but that's fine. Security will have to earn their paycheck that day. But I think we should just, any of these right-wing, like Nick Shirley's, we have to follow them around. Cam Higbee, Nick Shirley, fucking the whole Antifa roundtable journalist bullshit. All of them.
Okay.
They need to not be able to move without the entire country in which people are against Trump know where they're at.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he does. Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, he said verbatim there, their security's going to have to earn their paycheck that day. Like, what is that supposed to mean? What does security typically do to earn their paycheck? Protect people without doing it? That's obviously an insinuation there that they would have there would be a threat they will have to protect against that day. The only thing I can hope is that we'll see this guy is obviously going to be obliterated online for it. But even furthermore, like I hope he does get censored from whatever platform he posted this on. Like that's just entirely unacceptable. And especially too, like given the nature of how uneven it already is with the censorship pressures, like that's got to be an easy and obvious one. Like gone, take him, get him out of here, dude. That is unacceptable. This kind of political violence and this irritation tending to harassing people. But maybe this is more an extension of what we saw with the Charlie Kirk tragedy, which was that the debate's actually over. And that does seem to be where the energy is, which is there's no more talking. Nobody seemingly cares to talk anymore. The sides have picked the sides have chosen. People have picked whether blue or red, and no one wants to talk anymore. It's a battle. And that seems to be what the extension of that is showing itself. And the symptoms of that are now Minnesota is in a civil war, civil conflict, whatever you want to call it, with the federal government. That is no other way to frame it besides that. And furthermore, to show you where the people are, I have a group of these pulled from Reddit Lies. Now, Reddit Lies has been going ham today because I've been just posting a plethora of these. And so just to show you a few of these, this is one of the first ones here. I'm zooming in a bit more so you guys can see this. In the wake of the ICE shooting in Minneapolis, Redditors are preparing to take up arms against ICE officers, saying the first shots have been fired. And so if you look at the screenshot here, I'll make it up bigger for you. The first one here from March Against Nazis says ICE in Minneapolis, Minnesota just shot an unarmed woman in the face after trying to abduct her. A comment from 24 minutes ago, well, that's irrelevant. But a comment says, enough. Fight back with equal force. YouTube, I am reading a comment from a Redditor from another platform to explain and address and document it. They say, we've tolerated and endured these people enough. And if ICE Barbie is seen, do whatever you feel is the right thing to do. That is insane. That's insane. They continue, we can profile too. If they want to be little soldiers playing on God mode, it's time to level the playing field. I have a lot more to say, but I'll probably get banned for saying to fight back against straight up extrajudicial executions by half-wits hired by effing Nazis. Enough is enough. And then highlighted there at the end, the first shots have been fired. This next one here from Love for Wild says, we have the Second Amendment for a reason. They go on to say, yes, I'm willing to suffer the consequences of protecting the innocent from these monsters. Jacora's, this bottom one here on the bottom left, it says, again, YouTube, I'm quoting, documenting what a comment on Reddit says from a leftist. It says, death to ICE, death to the IDF, F these mem effers. And the other one says, can and will use lethal self-defense, says, sorry, ICE pigs, you reap what you sow. So this was like the first batch I saw. The next one continues. Even more from Reddit here, because it didn't stop, and this one's even more than what they had originally posted. Now I won't read all of these, but the one I can read right in the center here, it says, I'm heading to Minneapolis. ICE better pack up before I get there. So this is the sound cutting out again? That's insane. That is crazy. If you guys are having issues with the sound, the only thing I can tell you is make sure you jump in and jump out. YouTube must be having some issues. I apologize. I keep seeing it in the comments, but on my end, I promise you, it's fine on my end. But sure, some of these may be bots, but I would imagine, and provocatively so, and I would imagine a lot of these are actually people. Like these are actually people coming to Reddit in a frenzy, seeing what's going on the timeline on X, raging. We'll see what's on Threads as well too. I don't have the confidence here of this actually from Cayuga. They say they won't do nothing. This is the unemployed ones on disability are the ones to watch out for. They've got nothing to lose. Okay. Glad you guys are you're not having any sound issues. Good. Or maybe people are just coming in here and trolling. I don't know. But that's a lot. And then they had another one. I mean, it was just insane to me that they kept posting more. And they have a third one here. And they said, this is a direct call to violence. And I believe it is this bottom one here from Dr. Dogood. And again, all in response to this top post here. And Dr. Dogood has a badge from Reddit that he's a top 1% commenter. And it says, it's time. The time is now. The more we wait, the more innocent lives that will be taken and irreversible damage across the board, internationally and domestically. This administration is a terrorist group that is destroying our country one day at a time. So that is just like that. It's insane. But again, this is what I mean when I'm talking about like the, you know, you might see this, and in some ways it is true, but you'll see people will say like the left and the right doesn't mean anything. It's a uniparty, and it's like, yes, to a plethora of extents, yes, that is true and that is tangible, but that largely only really describes the structure and network of the actual parties themselves, as in terms of big D Democrat and big R Republican. The left and the right, as can be very quickly summarized, as it fully well exists in the public. Just as we see with the photo ID of the one woman. One glance at this lady, you know she belongs to the left wing. So to say that they don't mean anything is, to me, is kind of missing the point, because there's a bit of nuance there, which is like there still are polars. There still are the poles. There's a left pole and a right pole. And people still operate and utilize and organize themselves around those value sets. And so I think that, given that this is the left showing itself, they are like it's real, right? The left, there is a left-wing group of people who do believe in things like communes and black people deserve things over white people and everything else that goes in that kind of insane, chaotic belief. And these are the people who hate you. They want you to suffer. They think that you, they think that you're a Nazi. They think that, you know, much worse things, I would imagine, you know, and it's been a hot minute. I've covered too much of left-wing thought because I find the conversations rather boring, and I tire very quickly of their arguments. But it didn't stop. And just to show you as it continues to go away from Cayugas, when he said they won't do anything, well, they continued to do, and they did do. So put it up on screen for you guys to see here. This was after Mayor Frey had spoke. You can see here from Nick Sortor, and they were burning flags in the street. Let me pull it back a little bit here.
Bob, I want to jump in here. I want to ask you where you're at right now, and we're seeing the images on the screen. There's that flag you were talking about being burned here. What kind of things are they shouting? The crowd that's out there, I know they're obviously not happy ICE is there. They've been talking about that. What are they saying? You know, what's the energy like where you are right now?
So that's one reason why I'm not getting too close, so I can hear all of you, because it is loud out here. It's profanity. There's a lot of profanities against ICE.
Bob, I want to jump in here.
And again, you see how it basically went, and what it looks like to me, like, and this is just a guess, right? I don't know for sure at all. This looks like it's not very far from where the accident occurred. And if it's not, it's probably bubbling outside near one of the courthouses where the rally was at. But it just seems to be, you know, in a closed-off location. I'm unsure why that would be, unless it was the accident was on the other side, or if it was the outside of wherever, you know, Mayor Frey and Tim Walz and the Director of Public Safety and all those people were speaking. Full size. That's funny. That's funny. That's funny. And so then it continues, and then they actually did start literally attacking federal agents in the streets. And so this is a clip here after the video of the, I believe it was afterwards. Do I have that there? No, this is beforehand, actually. So this is earlier in the day. Right? Do I have that right? I'm looking at the mountain time between Newsmax and Fox News. This was actually earlier before that, but they were attacking federal agents. So here's a clip of that caught by Fox News.
Move! Fuck! Hey, fucking move! Get out of the way! Get out! Chris, get out the way! Get out the way of the truck!
Hey, look at this guy. I'm doing my part. Boom, pepper sprayed in the face. Yeeted, dude. Are you winning, son? Dude, I'm sorry. This is boom, dude. Oh, that felt good. Dude. You want some seasoning on your food? How about this? Dude. Like, come on, dude. And I feel bad. The kid's indoctrinated. He's probably around people with bad influences, or he's just retarded. But bang, dude. Right in the face. Guy don't even wait. He said, here, dude, I'll cool you off. Sit down, son. That's crazy. And I heard somebody saying it's like they're screaming it's Trump. I don't know what that convo was. It's probably just more police, but it looks like they broke the back window. I'm assuming that looks like it's broken. I wouldn't imagine they come prepared without a window like that. Is there another angle? This is the same one I saw. There's another fuller clip of this where as that car is coming through, you can't see it there, but one of the guys like starts pounding on the truck, and you can just see the ICE officer immediately like just yanks him similarly to they did that small scrawny kid there. Just incredible, to be honest with you. Now this is them taking the courthouse. So this is when it reaches the actual full-blown insurrection levels, beyond just attacking them in the street. This is the leftists taking over the federal courthouse. And so again, this is from Mercado Media. This is from the same guy who we just heard talking about what he wanted to do with Nick Shirley and Cam Higbee. But this is them trying to break into the federal courthouse.
Out now! Out
with Taylor or Taters. I do agree. And that was kind of one of the things I think I don't know if I just came across naturally or if it was pushed out by Sam Hyde. Somebody had said it, and it was something I've thought about for a hot minute, but I fully believe it. There is some level, there is a barrier. At a certain point, there becomes a barrier. And I do think just given the nature of what's happened so far, everything that's happened now, you kind of have to go out of your way to avoid like what's going on in the world at a certain point, which many people do. But in terms of like, if you fall on the wayside and you're like a left winger, even after everything, it is like, I don't know what there could be. Like what could save a person like that outside the power of Jesus Christ? And at a certain point you do, you just have to, exactly as it says, dude, dust your feet and move on. Some people just will never get it. Yeah, that whistle is AIDS. Okay. Absolute AIDS. Cannot listen to that. But this is them obviously, pushing into the courthouse, and people were saying like, where's the police? Okay. They busted a window. And it's funny because that's very similar to how always it is described. And I think, and again, to reference Tim Pool, I know a lot of you guys don't like him, but I do think he is on many takes. He's just generally accurate. And on one of these ones that he talks about all the time, from him being somebody who was heavily involved in that kind of activism space, being him being boots on the ground, recording a lot of that. That's how he got his start. And then he moved on to places like Egypt, etc. In that, what you see is they're banging, they're pushing, they were all up against a door. They were like completely cool with it. And then the brick came. And then someone in the back threw a brick. Everybody hesitated. They pull back. They're like, whoa, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. Are we seriously doing this? And then watch as they slowly start measing back up. They're like, yeah, that is okay. And you can see them one by one, the most ardent of them approaching, like, we're not stopping, keep going. And so it's weird that it's not weird, but it's wild to see that play out in like real time, just seeing that little video there. And we do have Blackhawks are in the airspace above Minneapolis. That was recorded earlier today as well, too. You can see this again. This is coming from Nick Sortor, reported by Nick Sortor, I should say. And that is what I can only assume, I'm taking it from him. I'm not like an expert on helicopters by any means, but that seems to be at least one. He says Black Hawks. I'm only seeing one so far. Spotted overhead near Minneapolis as a National Guard prepares for deployment. And that seems to be what we're going to be looking at, is it's going to be the Minnesota National Guard being summoned by Tim Walz to defend against ICE. And so this is kind of one of those buildups that we've talked about for a hot minute. Typically between states, right? Between, like Texas or California, like in the paradigm of, Jeff Younger. What would the Texas state do with their National Guard to go and extradite somebody who broke the law in Texas, right? Those are kind of those hypotheticals. But here is a state versus federal. This is a state outlining and trying to resist what the federal government's trying to come in and do. What do we do? I mean, right now, at this point, the federal government needs to quell the insurrection completely. And the next steps beyond there would be, I don't know if they would force a special election. There's probably a natural order of process there, where if Tim Walz is ousted and he's arrested, that obviously the next in line would fulfill. But given what we know about the systemic kind of fraud and scheme over in Minnesota, at that point, they're probably, and more than just Tim Walz, they're probably going to be pulling other people as well, too. probably just a group of that whole administration, maybe all the way down to Mayor Frey. Who knows? No, trust me. The play on of the name of Atlas Thugged is the fact that I outgrew the book Atlas Shrugged, but it was my opening kind of insight into politics, coming from my dad who was heavy into the Tea Party, then me moving into heavy libertarian space, then moving into a recovering libertarian space, into where I am now. I'm a Christian nationalist, and I was always deep down in my soul. I just had too many people telling stupid things in front of me to figure it out. And we did Nick's take. We showed that she was ID'd. And so now we're getting to Tim Walz is coming onto the scene. Now, Tim Walz coming onto the scene, and here's where Tim Walz is at. Some of the first stuff we get here. And this is where he does declare war on the federal government. But he's preparing the National Guard, and he's getting them out here. And this is some of his opening statements. About 2 minutes long. We'll listen to the whole thing. But this is what his kind of opening address was before he walks off. And then we'll go to the clip that's circulating that happened earlier, where he does essentially declare or let it be known that there's a war happening. And he kind of says it a bit odd, and we'll cover that too.
To Minnesotans, I say this: I feel your anger. I'm angry. They want a show. We can't give it to them. We cannot. If you protest and express your First Amendment rights, please do so peacefully, as you always do. We can't give them what they want. The hearts and minds of the people in this state are on our side. To Americans, I ask you this: please stand with Minneapolis. To Minnesotans, know that our administration is going to stop at nothing to seek accountability and justice. The State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension are working on the investigation. We have activated the State Emergency Operations Center. State Patrol and Minnesota National Guard leadership is connected with the Minneapolis Police Department, the St. Paul Police Department, Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, the DNR, and Minnesota's Homeland Security and Emergency Management. We have activated dozens of members of the State Patrol's mobile response team. And from here on, I have a very simple message. We do not need any further help from the federal government. To Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, you've done enough. There's nothing more important than Minnesotan safety. I've issued a warning order to prepare the Minnesota National Guard. We have soldiers in training and prepared to be deployed if necessary. I remind you, a warning order is a heads up for folks.
I'm unsure if
Trump
can override
National
it.
Guard troops are our National Guard troops. They're teachers in your community. They're business owners. They're construction professionals. They are Minnesotans. Minnesota will not allow our community to be used as a prop in a national political fight. We will not take the bait. We will continue to update you, Minnesota, as we get more information.
But happy year.
Now I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Bob Jacobson of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety.
So the big thing in there is he makes the push that the Minnesota National Guard is our people. Minnesota National Guard is people in our community. That's Minnesota. It's like he's pushing that out there, right? It's us versus them. Now, he's not saying it like that, but that's obviously the vibe, the insinuation that you feel from there, the way he's kind of classifying and describing what the Minnesota National Guard is. Now, it continues from here, and then he also, to Trump and Noem, he says specifically, you've done enough. Now, this is kind of this push here, again, from Tim Walz, telling ICE to GTFO. Now, Mayor Frey said it the way a Somalian would, which is unhinged with no self-control, and so Tim Walz says it closer to how a white man would say it, but they're both wrong. And then beyond that, you have this one, and this is the one that's been getting circulated. And so this is one we're probably going to play a couple of times here. So it's only 11 seconds long. It's been floated by End Wokeness, Greg Price, many other people. And it says it at the very beginning. But listen to the way he says it, okay? Because many people are quoting it like this. Tim Walz just said that Minnesota is, quote, at war with our federal government. But that's not specifically the way you said it. And I hate that I have to defend Tim Walz here, but there is a slight bit of context I would add here. And that's that he basically, rather than saying that they are at war, he admits they're at war. So here it is.
Well, I said this yesterday. We've never been at war with our federal government.
That's what it's circulating. Okay. He says, well, I said this yesterday. We've never been at war before with our federal government. So it's not him saying like verbatim that, Minnesota's now at war with the federal government. It's almost like him admitting that it's happening, but he's not saying like we're declaring war, they declared war. It's like he's being obfuscatory about it, being disingenuous, and almost to insinuate, I would imagine, that the federal government started it and they're defending themselves. That seems to be the framing that they're going for there. So to play it in full context again here too, here it is.
Well, I said this yesterday. We've never been at war with our federal government. I think in this case that the National Guard is their main mission. They have a dual mission. Well, I said this yesterday. We've never been.
So, not like he's declaring war, but he's at least saying like that's obviously what's occurring right now. Like this is what's happening here so far. And which I would say, I would wager is a bit different than him saying it, but that's a bit of a semantic argument. How much does it matter when it's like he's inciting violence and he's pushing for, you know, Minnesota to resist the federal government? It's like that. Okay, it's like I get it, like I'm maybe making this minor point there, but just to say like, you know, it's not as explosive as I think what people are pushing it out there to be. But he continues, though, and this is where I think he goes well beyond the pale here, because he urges national resistance. This thing was like, it blew me away. And about 2.5 minutes long, it's from Fox News. When I saw this, I was like, wait, what? And look at the quote. If you're in Portland, or you're in LA, or you're in Chicago, or you're wherever they're coming next, stand with us against this. Now, at this point, spot on. This is a full-blown insurrection, and the fact that he's inciting national resistance at this point, it's like there is no escaping that charge. Like, holy crap. And so here's this clip here. And again, this was from a little bit beforehand. And dude, they went and found the most DEI eligible candidate of all time to do hand signals, man. And it's just, I feel bad. I don't want to make fun of these people, dude, but they put themselves in those positions. Amen. No sound yet.
Look, and I understand the uniqueness of this moment in this week, following this week, seeing what's happening in the backdrop of a show hearing in D.C. My job is to govern, and my job is to see what the facts are. This happened a couple of hours ago, and we're already pitting American against American. All of you saw a video in your eyes. We have a chaotic situation caused by the largest deployment in American history of federal agents into a community with no communication to locals. We had a chaotic situation where an individual is in their car, shot and killed. And so, look, I want to be very cautious here 100%. Because Donald Trump will make this about me. He will make this about politics. This is about public safety, and this is about normalcy. To Americans who are watching this, if you're in Portland or you're in LA or you're in Chicago or you're wherever they're coming next, stand with us. Stand with us against this. This was so preventable.
Thank you very much. Todd Sullivan, thank you very much for the gifted members. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, man. Always appreciate that. W's in the chat for Todd Sullivan. Great job on that, man. Appreciate it. I appreciate all the support, guys. Appreciate you just being here. And so this one thing that I don't think I have a clip of too is this kind of Tim Walz continually keeps building this premise and this foundation that he's always been saying the way that the Trump administration has been carrying out their operation was going to lead to this kind of, it's a threat to public safety. And so he's putting it out there that even just the way that the operation and the way the agents are, the framing of the way they're handling themselves is like, it's threatening, it's dangerous. And so by mere presence of them, because they, quote, don't know what they're doing under the guise of Trump, they're a threat to public safety. And he's pushed this multiple times now.
So unnecessary. And I don't know. I hope. Maybe we're at their McCarthy moment. Do you have no decency? Do you have no decency? We have someone dead in their car for no reason whatsoever. And more. And I don't want to be right about this, but I said if they do this, they're going to create a chaotic situation where someone innocent's going to get killed. And they did it. And now we hear more political rhetoric. Enough. Enough is enough. And so to Minnesotans, don't take the bait. Do not take the bait. Do not allow them to deploy federal troops into here. Do not allow them to invoke the Insurrection Act. Do not allow them to declare martial law. Do not allow them to lie about the security and the decency of this state. And let's let this investigation play itself out. Let's make sure we protect our neighbors. I encourage you to use your First Amendment rights and all of your constitutional rights, but do so in a peaceful manner. We'll gather back with you as soon as we gather more information that needs to be put out. But again, stay safe, Minnesotans, and we'll be back with you.
That's crazy. I've seen him leave the podium multiple times, so I don't know how many statements he's given. It's at least got to be 2 or 3 now. That was clearly 2 different times he's at least taken the podium for other people to speak. Maybe they're just having a continuous kind of like rally or kind of gathering there. But regardless, though, like, get Delta Force out of Iraq and bring him over here. Yeah, look at the interpreter. Like, I know, like, what is that? That isn't. And it does seem fake. Maybe it is fake. Maybe this is like, it's a way to give jobs to people who don't deserve them. Program is like just make hand signals. What we don't know is she was actually halfway bent over on fentanyl in the street of Philadelphia just hours before this. That's funny. This, he does say things in a bit more peaceful, but at the same time, he also still encourages people to resist altogether and prevent them from invoking the Insurrection Act. I guess, what does that mean? How are they going to prevent them from? Are they going to prevent people from even entering the halls of Congress? Like, what would that mean? So the language is a bit confusing there, and I think he might himself be freaking out too. Let's not listen to that again. And so let's see here. So this is him. And then I want to make sure I make note of this too. I said at the top of the hour, but again, so Ron Mamdani joining in with the same language from Mayor Frey, with the same language from Tim Walz. Quote, "This morning, an ICE agent murdered a woman in Minneapolis." Pushing it there in New York. And so, will we see people traveling across the nation to do it? Maybe, probably. Like, the crazy thing is people, everyone's saying like they're not going to do anything, but like, I remember the Summer of Love. I remember how many like interviews they were doing where girls were just like showing up and they're like, no, they paid us to come out here. We just are here. And understand too, there is an element of this that funds these things, right? The pallet of bricks the pallet of bricks didn't show up itself. It's like somebody put it there. And to that end, there's also coordination efforts as well, too. We saw a good bit of that. If you followed like anybody like Andy No or that coverage into Antifa, they organize in plain view. Back then in Twitter 1.0, it was like, welcome to Antifa town. Like, we're going to be doing these violent things at these events here. And it's like, how is this online? And I think it was Anthony Tony made the point, too, which is like, if a right-wing group did this, like, can you imagine Patriot Front doing anything close to this? You would have already seen people been arrested in mass. You would have already seen them. You might have even seen like ICBM strikes in Minneapolis if it's a right-wing group doing it. But again, that just shows you the obvious, disparity in the gap between the way the sides are treated, the 2 tiers of justice, if you will, and on those ends. And but there was some decent good stuff. Now again, like I said before, I will believe it when I see it. This is from Nancy Mace, and that is that they're pursuing, and the House Republicans, not just her, are now moving to subpoena Ilhan Omar and her brother/husband's, whatever it is, immigration records and the Oversight Committee. She says the federal marriage fraud and knowingly entering a marriage to evade immigration laws is a serious felony punishable by prison time, steep fines, denaturalization, and deportation. Marrying a sibling is illegal in every state. We intend to get to the bottom of it. End the fraud, denaturalize, and deport Ilhan Omar. To me, I'll believe it when I see it. But this is what we need. We want this. We do want Ilhan Omar denaturalized and deported. So let's not get overexcited and say, wow, Trump administration, clap our hands now. Let's wait until we see them actually do it. We'll clap our hands then. Deal? Deal. And I'd even make a deal with what's her name? With Ilhan Omar. Like, listen, here's the deal. And for you to avoid going to jail time or facing capital punishment, we're going to shoot you from a cannon back to Somalia. If you live, you live. And if you don't, well, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. No, but I would say a compromise there would be like, listen, let's just deport you. We're not even going to concern ourselves with the charges, nothing. we're just going to deport you. We're going to pay for the ticket to Somalia, take the clothes on your back. You're not taking American assets with you. We're going to break up your home and sell it to random people. We're going to sell it to homeless people across the state as long as they're white. I think she would take that. Or would she rather sit? Maybe she would. I don't know. Maybe Somalia is so bad she would rather sit in an American prison for the rest of her life than she would actually go back. Who knows? But we do. And at the same time, like, we don't need to see her marriage records either. Like, she doesn't belong here. And if anything, she's already violated and committed sedition multiple times with how many times she pushes for Somalia and her open admission that Somalia is her number one interest, not America. You said F a ticket, swim. I'm just trying to be nice, you know. Extend our hand. Yeah, take Cash Patel with you, actually. And again, you know, I believe it when I see it. And one thing I had here too, now while Nancy Mace is up on the screen, I'm thinking about it. I wrote this little side note here because I was thinking about this yesterday night about Pam Bondi. And it's just in general about any woman that's in a position of power or holds public office, which is like, it just feels bad to have to attack these people. And I know somebody said the unk glasses on. I'm about to take them off, dude. Don't worry. We're about to. I don't want to show my age. No, I'm just kidding. I need them. I'm blind. But it doesn't. Now, sure, like it's like haha funny to like be like, see, look, dumb woman, like shouldn't have been fat. That's funny. I get it. Like that's never not going to be not funny. But to me, at a certain point, like I do feel bad because it's like you can hear like her voice quivering when she's saying things. She's under tremendous pressure, and at the end of the day, like she's not supposed to be there. And if we had a correct and just Christian society, she would have never been allowed to do that anyways. You know, that's somebody's grandma, that's somebody's mom, that's somebody's sister. I don't appreciate it at all. And I think she's honestly at this point needs to be put in jail for what she's done with the Epstein files, violating and literally, and let's not forget about that too. The federal government has broken the law about the Epstein file release. And now we're just moving past it. And now understand, is this all, are we dominating the globe? So just nobody knows what's in the Epstein files. So we can never actually get to the bottom of the fact that they broke the federal law that was put in place by Rokana, forgive me, and Thomas Massey. That's a whole other point that's just out of the news cycle now at this point. But again, overall, it personally makes me feel bad because at the end of the day, it's like that is a woman and she was designed by God to not do what she's doing. So just to let you know, that's how I personally feel about it. More other stuff coming out of Minnesota while we're getting to the back end of this. And I think once we wrap through all of what I have here, I'll probably revisit the timeline to see what else has happened and occurred because it's moving so fast. And if anybody sees anything too, put it in the chat as well. I have no problems or qualms going to it, especially in a today like today where news is just flying. But there was another audit that had came out about Minnesota. And this is from Leading Report here, just to bring your attention to it, that a new audit revealed that Minnesota's DHS backdated documents and handed nearly $700,000 to a grantee that had no proof of work. And that is per Rep. Comer. And that is insane. There's more than enough evidence now at this point that you need to, I would just shut all Minnesota's government down. Cease all payments, all money, keep the lights on, but just shut the whole thing down. Because it's got to be much deeper than what we even realize. And to that effect too, if it's deep in Minnesota, it can't be the only state. There have got to be other states, I would imagine, that are dealing with if not worse. And I've seen some maps that show that places like Texas and California may even be worse. It'll be a scary day to see when that gets uncovered. And amidst all of this, JD Vance called for Tim Walz to resign. Like, I don't want Tim Walz to resign. I want Tim Walz in jail. So thanks for missing again, JD Vance. Missed one more time. Now, there was a cool interaction I had seen that had been put up on, I can't remember who had put it up, but it's between Brandon Gill and some of these individuals from Minnesota about the Somalis in Minnesota. And again, just to show you that, like, this is what the other side of the aisle votes for, believes wholeheartely. So, and Brandon Gill, mixed opinions, mixed feelings on him, but I will say this is a masterclass of how to carry yourself in these kind of things. He didn't get agitated or nothing. He just kept pushing. And it's going to be this guy right here, the one who looks, not too American Aryan, I guess I would say. But here's this exchange about 2 minutes long. And it does go, and it shows you not really more about what the fraud is, but it shows you, like, this is what the Democrat will say in defense. Here's what a left wing will say in defense. Here's what they believe. Here's how they justify what's happening in Minnesota. I thought this was some good insight.
Mr. Balu, again, thank you for being here. Let me ask you, does large-scale Somali immigration make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Certainly stronger.
Certainly stronger. Do you know what percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on food stamps?
No.
54%. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Well, to be clear, a majority of those...
It's 7%. There's a big difference between 54% and 7%, is there not?
Excuse me, sir, could I answer the question?
Let me move on. We've got a lot of questions here. What percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on Medicaid?
I don't know.
It's 73%. Do you know what that number is for Minnesota native households?
Again, you're using the phrase Minnesota native households, but the majority...
The number is 18%. That's quite an astounding difference. I think we would agree.
Can I answer the question, please?
Let me ask you one more, and then we can go on to that. What percentage of Somali-headed households are on welfare in general?
I don't know.
It's 81%. What about, let me just ask you, after 10 years of being in the United States, what percentage of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare?
I don't know.
The number is 78%. So even after 10 years, 78% of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Again, you're using
non-Somali immigrant-headed households.
If I can just answer the question, when you're
it.
using the phrase native Minnesotans, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are as Minnesotan as any of us. They were born in the United States. It's only 8,000.
There it is. And there it is. They were born here. They're just as American as you and me. That's the only thing. That's what defines an American, is if you are born specifically in this location here. That's all that there is. And I agree, dude. Anchor babies are not citizens either.
Of the 108,000 Somalis.
And nevertheless, the welfare usage is astoundingly different. Let me ask you again, does that make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Again, I'd like the opportunity to answer the question here.
Go for it.
So, again, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are born in the United States, as I understand it.
Okay, well, what percentage of working-age Somalians who have been in the U.S. for 10 years or more, how many of them speak English very well?
I don't know.
About half. The answer is about half. That seems pretty low, doesn't it?
Again,
it's insane. It's just insane. And one that might have been in there that we might have slipped because I might have been talking over it is he talks about, what percentage of Somalians after are on what's it say? What percentage of Somalians are actively on welfare? And it's like 81%. Then he continues and he says, and then for working age Somalians who have been here for 10 years in the country, how many of those remain on welfare? And it's like 78%. And it's like, you're telling me after 10 years of being here, there's only a 3% change? Only a few Somalians after being here for 10 years even learn the language or move off of benefits? 10 straight years of a Somalian citizen being given taxpayer dollars to not assimilate, to denigrate the society, and then to have people who are supposed to represent us come up and say they're just as American as us and we need to continue this burden. The taxpayers, white people need to do this. We need to pay out for this. Because when you look at the actual tax breakdown and you see the rollout, it really is just whites and Asians are paying for everyone else to stay here. And it's crazy. And, for white Americans, making up 60-some% of the nation, it's like we're about 70-some% of the tax output. And then for Asian Americans, they have the highest disparity of positive disparity, which is they're something like 6 to 8% of the country, and they put out 12 to 15% of the taxes. And then for blacks, it's 3 or something like that. It's miserable for all the other groups, actually. And could be a little bit wrong on the numbers there, but it's biggest two groups are whites and Asians there. And so they're essentially paying for the majority of all these other people to do nothing and stay at home. So when you break it down that way, it literally verbatim is the Great Replacement. That's what this is in effect, especially when you look at it in terms of just the nitty gritty, the brass tacks, if you will. It is white people and Asians. Well, yeah, I'm throwing in Asians just because they're on the chart there, are paying for these people to be here, have BMWs, not work jobs, receive millions of dollars in funds from whether it's HHS or whether it's from other kind of services like that, to run daycares or transportation services or to run restaurants and grocery shops that sickly feed into each other. And it's just a big joke. It needed ended 10 years ago when it was started. And one thing I would say too, this is a sidebar. I'll break away from this for just a second. All of these are going to come in because I forgot the overlays only on this page. But again, thank you for the members. I appreciate that so much. A bit that I'd heard from Owen Schroyer, because I watched the Zeb Boykin and Owen Schroyer, the little 30-minute episode, although it was supposed to be longer, from yesterday. And Owen Schroyer makes the point, which is, it's clear and obvious that there's an element of this is astroturf. The Somalian fraud is astroturf. Now, not to say like it's not real or it's not bad, but it definitely is astroturf. And for example, you could point to maybe some of the more shallow level things, which is it was very immediately, quoted and boosted and amplified by people like JD Vance and Elon Musk and others. But also beyond that, what did we see on the first day I covered it? The FBI has been involved in these cases since 2015. And so when you look into also, Nick Shirley, there's not too many good looks there. And the first day it looked great, but when you see it you look at it a bit deeper, there's some angles there that looks like, what we saw on the day after on the PBD podcast, which was Fuentes but loves Jews. Also from there, what you see similar to other people that are considered gatekeepers or establishment kind of, grifters, it was like the third or fourth day he goes out, he's wearing a gray sweatshirt that says Polymarket written across the chest. Now, just on the face, I don't think any Christian should be promoting any kind of gambling at all. And even more so, he's from the Church of Latter-day Saints. He is a Mormon, so far as what I've read. I believe that I've seen it multiple times from other people. Why is he pushing Polymarkets? That doesn't seem to make any sense, especially given the fact that we know it's been already kind of abused. Vivek has been reported to buying his own shares in Polymarket to boost his kind of what he seems and appears as favorable. But in addition, there was another story in the fray of what was occurring with Venezuela, was that there was there's thoughts that somebody was insider trading in Polymarket. And the evidence was that before Maduro had been captured, there was like a $3,000 bet that was wagered on the market about will Maduro be captured by the United States. And they ended up making it was like $300,000, $400,000 on the market. I saw a report earlier today, I don't have it here in the outline, but supposedly Polymarket is refusing to pay those individuals. So we'll see what happens with that, but I wouldn't trust Polymarket as far as I can throw it. I would only look at it as a money market for what that is. And I do think on some things it is pretty indicative, but knowing that Vivek himself can dump money into his own market, it does seem to kind of push that maybe it does take away from actual public opinion, and maybe it's more like upper class opinion, if that, or donor opinion, if you will. And, but just to make the point there, though, like this has been going on for a long time. Like the Somalis didn't just get here yesterday; they've been here for a hot minute. And to take it from me, they've been in Columbus for as long as I've been here. I don't know what happened to the sanctuary status, but when I was first brought into Columbus, one of the first things I had said to somebody on campus was like, "What are all these balloon head guys doing on campus?" Well, I didn't say it like that, but I made a point. I was like, "It's clear there's like a specific tribe of black people here," and I was told that at the time, Columbus was deemed a sanctuary city for Somalians, and thus this is why we had the population there. But the daycare fraud's been going back to, not even daycare fraud, the autism fraud went all the way back to like 2014. The food fraud, the say that you're paying for meals and whatnot, that also had came from this like $14 million case that was being investigated back in, again, 2014, 2015. So Owen does make the point, for what reason is this being astroturfed? One could argue, but there's also speculation that in any other, historically, the precedent is when something's being astroturfed, like i.e. Elon Musk saying, "Wow, look at these grooming gangs. Stop talking about H-1Bs. Look at these grooming gangs in Europe." The idea is it's distracting or a deflection to turn the national attention to something else so that there's less attention focused on what is really important. That's kind of the run line there, the thought process behind that there. And, just as a sidebar, Tim Walz's daughter, I'll put this on screen. Tim Walz's daughter, this is a hilarious tweet I saw on X from last night. I didn't bookmark it or anything. But this is Tim Walz's daughter. And apparently she's been posting TikToks nonstop ever since it was announced that Walz was going to be walking away from the governor race. She went on TikTok and she's like, "Let me try to gain as much following as I possibly can since I'm about to lose my 15 minutes of fame." And for her, it's actually lasted a hot minute. But this is what she said about Nick Shirley's video. She says she didn't watch the whole thing because it gave her anti-vax vibes. It's people have a mental illness, dude. Leftism is a mental illness.
This video that went crazy, this Nick Shirley video, it seems to just change the whole everything on there. Have you seen it?
I have not watched the whole thing. I've seen clips of it and whatnot. I think they're trying to make this man into Charlie Kirk or something.
Yeah.
And I think, right-wing media ecosystems and people just really like that sort of, content in media.
Yeah.
And it's the whole anti-vax thing and just, they're not going to believe anybody except the least qualified people, it seems. And so he fit the bill there, I think.
Okay. This video that went crazy.
Is she white? I would have to imagine so. I don't remember who Tim Walz's wife is, but Tim Walz is pretty white. MFer. All three of my brain cells explode. You get halfway through that video and all of a sudden takes this yeeting his head at the keyboard at 2,000 miles an hour. Sorry, malfunction, guys. That fried me. And it does seem, I'll be honest, dude. Sometimes when women talk, I think they were engineers of bioweapon against men. If you got enough women talking at once, it would put me in the dirt. I'm serious. I think the at most I can handle is 3. Anything beyond that, I'm serious. I start getting cognitive dissonance. You have a couple women talking at you, and I'm start melting. I'm like being pelted. You ever seen that scene from what game is that? Medal of Honor, not European Assault. Was it European Assault? It might have been. These are the European Assault, one that came before it. But man, it's this scene, dude. You're fighting you're fighting this boat. No, it was the Rising Sun. It was the second one, I think. The opening scene is you get woken up, your ship's being attacked and blown up, but you fight through, sewers, pipes are blowing up everywhere. But you get to the hatch. You're finally making it out of the ship. After all these pipes are blowing up, you're trying to make it. You're trying to survive. The hatch opens up, and the guy who's out there leading you just gets ripped through. You see this turret just tear 1,000 holes into him. That's what happens to me when women talk too loud and too fast. I'm just sitting there being assaulted. I'm like, no, you have to go. But seriously though, there's something that messes with my brain when women talk like that. And I'm not even trying to be rude. It literally is me help. I'm being overstimulated. But that's kind of, catching you up to where we are with Minneapolis riots. Moving on to the other story here, which is the U.S. military seizing the Russian flagged tanker. And so I pulled a good bit of this from the Reuters article here. And just a short summary, the vessel had been renamed and registered under a Russian flag. So it was a Venezuelan vessel, but was re-registered with Russia using the Russian flag. The seizure actually took place in the Atlantic near Iceland. The pursuit of the vessel, the U.S. is saying, was part of the U.S. pressure campaign on Venezuela. Supposedly, they'd been trailing this thing for about 14 days. And so it did take place this morning. In addition, there was a second one. And in the second one, the Coast Guard also seized another Venezuelan-linked tanker. Now, this one was in the waters of Latin America, so closer to Venezuela. That one had the flag of Panama, and it was a super tanker named M. Sofia. And the one that had the Russian flag was called the Marinera, or formerly the Bella 1, was what it was called. And in addition to that, what we ended up getting there was that, Caroline Leavitt came out and said it was a shadow tanker and that they did use this false flag. NBC, or not NBC, Lord forgive me, Briggs News came out and said, and then it was confirmed, that the UK Ministry of Defense did confirm that it aided the United States in the seizure, although they said they didn't board the vessel. But it happened in the Atlantic, so I'd imagine it was probably just communications and intelligence. Per Jordan Crowder, however, and a few others, I've seen these reports here. This is where it gets a little bit scary. This is from Jordan Crowder. I'll put this on screen so you guys can see it. Actually, let me switch it over here. This is from Jordan Crowder. Don't know too much about him, but you can see just there, right? He's followed by people like Ian Carroll, Native Patriot, and a few other big dogs. He's apparently the host of Conscious Observers podcast. I don't know too much about him at all, but this is the first person I saw it from. And he says, but the story's about to get even crazier. There's rumors that the ship is not full of oil, but rather weapons that Russia sent Venezuela to fight the United States. And this is aided by the fact that it had been getting shadowed by a Russian submarine for an extended period of time. Like Russia was monitoring it very closely. And this continues. And another thing here too is while this seizure was occurring, Russia had sent warships and a submarine out in the waters when the U.S. was coming after it. So the ship is being taken to the UK for inspection, but the crew is being taken to the United States for prosecution. And that's where the split actually gets a bit deeper. And this is where it looks like Russia's actually got an issue here. And so the Russian foreign minister, well, let me back up. So for what reason here, and this is from Kalen Reports, and he's a Ukrainian front lines reporter. And this is what he says. And so again, take it with a grain of salt. He's probably gay, regardless. He says there's a good chance Moscow attempted a high-risk weapons transfer to Venezuela to gain leverage in Ukraine negotiations. The U.S. clocked it early. The ship turned around. Now it's been seized. Massive humiliation for Russia. Take that with a grain of salt. That is a Ukrainian frontlines reporter. But that does seem to be what some of the rumors are suggesting. Now, do I believe rumors on the onset? No, I don't. So let's wait and see what we get from that. But that's what's being reported, just so you know. And it is really dicey. Now, let's see. Now, again, keep in mind, Caroline Levitt has said that we are going to prosecute the Russians who were on, or the people who were on board the ship. Now, here's the admission that they were Russians and not just Venezuelans. So look at this. From the Russian foreign minister, he came out and said in response to the seizure that Russia demands that the U.S. ensures humane and dignified treatment of Russian citizens aboard the ship and fully respect their rights and interests, including their right to return to Russia. So this one is what we're not going to be respecting, obviously, because if we're prosecuting them in the United States, they're probably not making it back to Russia. And so that seems to be the split. There's also a further report that they have threatened. Now, we'll have to check into this. I might as well do a quick search of it here in a second. But the report is that they have already threatened to strike. They've already threatened missile strike retaliation. Now, on what, on who? Not sure, but just to see this. And it was from the Newswire, I believe. Threatened strike, seizure. Oh, why is it so terrible? The search feature on X is so miserable, guys. Let me just search it. Let me just search it straight up. Let me just do this real quick. Russia threatens strike, seizure. I have it somewhere in the outline, but it's not where it should be. Interesting. Okay. So take that one with a grain of salt. Looks like I'm not seeing too much that's supporting that claim there. So let's strike that and let's say that they're not threatening to strike. Maybe that was a fake port that I saw earlier. So, okay, cool. Cleared. Heard it here first. But the tensions are rising, obviously. And I think that those submarines, and I think even another one had actually moved out to the water, and they are positioned out in the waters, so far as I understand, in the Atlantic right now. Now, in addition to this, more of these Trump True Socials are coming in, and Trump's giving these responses. He's posting about everything. And so here's one of them, and I'll put this up on screen too. This is his truth to big NATO fans. This is what he says here. So he releases this message for, again, NATO fans. This is what he says. He says, remember, for all of those big NATO fans, they were at 2% GDP, and most weren't paying their bills until I came along. The USA was foolishly paying for them. I respectfully got them to 5% GDP, and they pay immediately. Everyone said that couldn't be done, but it could, because beyond all else, they are all my friends. Without my involvement, Russia would have all of Ukraine right now. Remember, also, I single-handedly ended 8 wars. In Norway, a NATO member foolishly chose not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize. But that doesn't matter. What does matter is that I saved millions of lives. Russia and China have zero fear of NATO without the US, and I doubt NATO would be there for us if we really needed them. Everyone is lucky that I rebuilt our military in my first term and continue to do so. We will always be there for NATO, even if they won't be there for us. The only nation that China and Russia fear and respect is the DJT rebuilt USA, Make America Great Again. But I'll tell you what, the part I don't like is this last second right here, the only thing that seems to be in lowercase down here. We will always be there for NATO, even if they won't be there for us. That is trash. That needs, I don't want that. However, though, the rest of the message does kind of come off with the vibes of like, how dare you bite the hand that feeds you, right? Like, are you serious? And it is in this kind of general reaction of all these people kind of coming out and threatening along the lines of the Greenland invasion. And that's coming from the EU and people in NATO as well, too. So it's a bit separate. So we have we obviously have Israel, Iran, but then we have Greenland, then we have Russia. And so it's like, and that's all outside of everything we just covered with Minnesota. So at the very least, a lot is going on. And then we're beyond there, though. One of the things that I should mention too is that China has issued now I think it's from two different officials. One was a spokesperson, one was an actual official. The official was from the Energy Institute, and they both came out and have warned America. Now, like I had said yesterday, this just because China warns and Russia warns doesn't mean or isn't a metric or a sign that there's actual hunger to do things. But again, if your country gets smacked in the mouth and the USA drags their balls across your face, you as a leader can't sit there and go, "Oh, what are we going to do, guys?" Like you have to exude strength. You have to push that out. You have to represent that. And so to take any of what they say as like it's a surefire sign they're going to do something or there's moves being made, I wouldn't say that at all. I would say this is kind of status quo. The one that was concerning, though, that did come from the Energy Institute was he is specifically talking about their specific 61 warhead, which can carry 60 nuclear warheads and one singular hydrogen bomb. And he's explaining this, and he's talking about its capabilities and how nobody, even the United States, has no technology that can intercept it. So that I didn't like too much. That seemed to go a bit beyond just, hey, don't do that again. And he did basically, and I'm paraphrasing here, he said that China won't be the ones that fire the first shot, but they won't allow the U.S. to fire a second one. That's what he said verbatim. Now, that seems to be a bit more kind of, oomph than what we're getting previously. The other lady said it in all Chinese, and I had to listen to the guy translate it, or the lady translate it. Miserable, dude. I would not force you guys to listen to that if your lives depended on it. And so just to explain, so that's where we are with this Russian-flagged tanker, and that's obviously more of this fallout here coming from Venezuela. If we move to actually invading Greenland, this is kind of on the next one. That's crazy. I had a dream yesterday that Tom Foe is going to join NAV for some reason. Now it's actually happening. That's crazy, right? Right? We manifested it, guys. We all sat around the campfire and we held hands. I think Gripper NC was like screaming, getting his anger out, and we manifested it. And next thing you know, like the energies of the universe came together. And like, no, I'm not making fun of you, dude. But it is awesome. I do like Tom a lot. And I'm glad that he's being a part of it. And we should be seeing him Monday, and more on that for you guys here later in the week. But in terms of invading Greenland, to zoom out and re-give a summary of where we are with that, it was news to me, but this is where we'll start, is that Marco Rubio informed Congress, or he said that the United States has informed Congress that the United States has full intentions of purchasing Greenland. So that's where we'll start. However, per Spencer Hakamian, who he's like a content creator. He's one of these bigger content creators. He says, breaking, the military has provided invasion scenarios to Trump on Greenland. Interesting. Right? Like interesting. So I feel like the question is it's not a matter of if Greenland is going to become a part of America. It's a matter of, will we purchase it or will we invade it? Which one of these is going to be the scenario there? And but again, to show you, and this is from, I believe, Newswire is where I saw this from. If my outline will work. No, from Polymarket, actually. Polymarket reported this, which, again, take note of that. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has informed Congress that the United States intends to purchase Greenland. And it says later on, they replied, the odds of it happening have doubled today. And the betting market is, will Trump acquire Greenland before 2027? And it's sitting right now at a 14% chance. However, what's the reaction to this? Well, the reaction from everybody else is they're saying, no, you don't. Not so fast. So Breaks News writing here, France and allies are preparing a plan in case the United States attempts to seize Greenland. And I don't have a full list of what countries are involved in that, but I do know it is being spearheaded by France and Germany. And so it looks like there is going to be a group of countries that are going to oppose the United States attempt to annex Greenland. Now, John Fetterman putting out a statement that I would imagine many libertarians would agree with, many anti-interventionists would agree with entirely. But here we go. He says, I believe Greenland has massive strategic benefits for the United States, but I do not support taking it by force. America is not a bully. Ideally, we purchase it. Similar to our purchases of Alaska or the Louisiana Purchase, acquiring Greenland is a many decades old conversation. So, and that will be the continuation where people will take it is all of this, anti-intervention, like no matter what, period. And we'll see, man. I will say one thought that I had in my head after seeing all of this and just like this speed of which everything is occurring. And truth be told, off of the back of one of the speeches we watched yesterday, I saw another clip from another portion in the speech that was even worse, where he's like whispering into the mic. He is slightly slurring his words, but his volume is going up and down like crazy. And I just had a thought, like, are we moving at lightning speed because they think that Trump is dying? Is there a reality in which that they do fear that Trump's health is much, much worse and they are going full 100 miles an hour while he's in office to avoid any kind of fallback or any kind of, changing the plans? Possibly. And given what we're getting from Donald Trump when we're seeing him IRL, it's a little aggressive. And the other thing I would say too is, seemingly out of nowhere, and I've not seen too many people make comments about this, you guys might see it on your X feeds, was all of a sudden we're now getting like audio recordings from from Air Force One. When was that a thing? When did that start coming from? And to me, and specifically, thank you for the super chat. To me specifically, I don't like that in the age of AI, because knowing that Trump's health is beginning to deteriorate, knowing that AI can perfectly replicate even RFK's voice, as we found out yesterday, I don't like that, because now I'm in the same where we were with that with Joe Biden, which was, did he actually say this, or did they make it? They produce it so that people would go along with it. Like, are we already approaching that kind of territory? And what an absolute awful, chaotic place to be if we're about to have a war on like 10 fronts here in America, some trade wars, some actually physical and kinetic. That's insane. Thank you very much for the super chat. He says, Nick Fuentes sucks now. He's neocon. It's over. And I would disagree. I don't know what stream it was. It was like 3 or 4 days ago. It's one of the ones that a lot of people disliked, but I did pull the clip from like this either 2018 or 2019 of Nick talking about Venezuela and like what America should do with Venezuela. And he's not that he's become a neocon. I think people might have been confused about what they were. It might have been a boomer moment for me. I know. I'm not gonna lie about that. But he's always been open about the hemisphere powers, right? And I think even if you look at the way that he talked about the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, and he's been pro-Russia, doing what's in Russia's interest. This is in line with where he's been. A lot of his thoughts have been for a long time. I think just in the recent events of a lot of people who have been joined on recently over the last year or two, who have been, I would imagine, peppered by a lot of the kind of Israel and the wars for Israel talk, probably made it seem, or they thought and came to the conclusion, that Nick was entirely an anti-interventionist. That's not the case. There's a lot more nuance to that. And so I think a lot of people felt like the rug was pulled on them, but I think a lot of them just don't have a longer track record of what Nick's positions are and what he would do if he was, if he was president. Let's just say that. And then we'll play this here, because this is EU officials, and this is where I sent this into the Discord earlier, and this isn't even an official guy at all. It's, as the community note says, but it's from the terror alarm. And if you want to skip all I wouldn't say that, but I would say, just in one bit, I would throw a bone I would throw to people who do want to immediately throw Nick under the bus is one thing the bone I would throw out there, not to say I agree with you at all, but just because there is such a market that is at the ready, they're waiting, they're like dogs, like they're waiting for any moment, like they're waiting for that one trip to come off the bone to just like, oh, Nick made something wrong. Nick was wrong. And because there's such a market that is rooting for that and is alive and well, I don't blame people for getting swept into that and immediately thinking those things either, given the fact that we live in the age and era of miscommunication and lying and, misinformation, if you will. But this is not an EU official. That's why I got community noted. This guy is Gunther Fellingler, and it says that he's involved in various NGOs. He does not hold any official position at the EU level. But regardless, I would say this is still somebody at the higher level there in being involved with the EU. And this is what he had to say. And he threatened that they would take American bases. So here we go.
If you take it, we take every single base of the Americans from Aviano to Ramstein, from Romania to all the other military bases will be confiscated and you will lose it. And the whole position of American power since World War II, if you take Greenland, you have to leave. It's very simple, Mrs. Miller. This is the leverage we have. You need the spaces for global power projection. You won't have it. And we can defend ourselves very well, and we will do that without the US nuclear shield, without the US troops in Europe, without the American bases. We will simply run these bases ourselves, and we run your boys home into Chicago.
Yeah, hey, Delta Force, I got a new guy.
And Ohio. And goodbye.
But look at this last part here. What's he saying? We will simply run these bases ourselves and run you boys back home to Chicago and Ohio. Those are some tough words. I accept this offer. Yeah. Okay. You know what? You're right. America will pull all money going to EU immediately. Everything's off the table. America no longer has an alliance with Europe. And guess what? Guess what? Revolutionary War II. We're coming back to the UK. The revisit. Revolutionary War II, the reverse. And it's our Navy going and landing on shore in the UK. It's funny. And F all these stupid cuck Europeans, dude. Like, not an anti-white thing, but just like all of these dudes who are fully bought in on the New World Order, like find some balls, find yourselves, first of all, and find the Lord, most of all. Yeah, it's almost as if they don't like us, man. That's crazy. The people who we give millions of dollars and protect constantly so they can live in first world countries off the back of all of us. Disgusting, dude. So that kind of rounds it out for Greenland. Moving on to the Hitler portion of the thumbnail and the portion of the show here, which is the Trump placing these massive restrictions on the military-industrial complex. There's a group of these. There's 3 of them so far. So this is the first one that I saw. And this first one here was the opening one. The Kobesi letter is quoting it here. But it says, President Trump says executives of the U.S. defense contractors will no longer be allowed to make more than $5 million unless they build new and modern production plants. Trump also says he is banning dividends and stock buybacks for defense companies until these problems are rectified. And here's what he says. So I won't read the whole thing here, but I don't know if he names Lockheed Martin in this one. I don't think he does. I don't think he names any of them actually, but he just names the defense contractors at large. But this is him basically taking the private wing of the military and saying, you're getting on board or you're not making money. And this is kind of like, right here, I'm demanding that maintenance be spot on time. And that is so... He's making the trains run on time. Like the vibes, the similarities, the parallels, you can feel them there. Although, will we get the same actionable consequences? I don't know. But he's not permitting dividends or stock buybacks for the defense companies until those problems are rectified. So basically, what he wants to see from all of these defense contractors is them step up to the plate and put the newest, best, and brightest facilities out and in America immediately. That was the first one. So, and then the limiting pay to execs is kind of the crazy portion, right? Like that's, this is is this the base socialist art from Trump, right? Or is this what we're getting here? Did he woke up? Trump woke up? He woke up from his nap? Did Susie Wiles get knocked out of the chair? What happened? Where's Susie? Is she sick? She didn't show up to work today? This is what happens when Susie Wiles isn't there for one day. And then, so Lockheed Martin, their stock nosedived after that comment, dropped off the face of the earth. And they took a harder hit than what the Blackstone did. And I don't have a percentage here, but from AF Post, Lockheed Martin took a sharp hit following the news. And that looks like it at least went from 532 dropping all the way to 509. Percentage-wise, wouldn't know that off the top of my head, but That's a huge hit, clearly. And he's tracking it by the hour, so we'd have to look at it from a larger scale, but it looks like they obviously were responding to it immediately, and that's good. They should respond. Build better nukes. And so here's the next one that came out. This seems to be part of the reason why he's got this intention against this, is he says he announced his intent to raise the military budget to $1.5 trillion in 2027 in hopes of building a dream military. So the left is going to hate this and the right's going to be split on it. And I'm going to be honest, man, if the goal is to, and Zeb's been saying this too, right? We don't have to deport anybody if we make the whole globe America. And if that is the intent, we're going to need $1.5 trillion, right? And I say that jokingly, not that that's something I want. But is that the intent? Is this what we're about to do? Are we rolling this out specifically because we're going to take things on? Or is this talk not actually meet the actions? For example, is the goal to get $1.5 trillion not because we want to have a dream military, but because they have information that shows that we are rapidly approaching conflict with Russia and China? I would imagine it's the latter. And I wouldn't imagine at all that you would ever get a Trump Truth Social post that said, we have to gear up for war. We're starting right now, gear it up, because that would send people into a what? They'd start freaking out. And already when Somalians make up the majority of the people in Minnesota, I don't know how much more chaos that the country can handle, given the fact that we're already categorically, rife with chaos and psychotic breaks. So, and again, you're going to get the anti-interventionist, right-wing, libertarian crowd at large are going to be screaming at the top of their heads, but at the same time, they're also not believers in the Monroe Doctrine. But I am a believer in the Monroe Doctrine. I do think that there is, specifically in terms of the hemisphere. Now, you could make an argument to where when the border should begin and end in the hemisphere. But to me, I think that to omit that there are other powers and other pressures in the world, and that America can just turn it all out and somehow subside and exist without anything happening, or to potentially lose the risk of being the number one power, or even worse than that, having another country that's not America determine America's future. Now, I'm less concerned with the positive actions, which is like, I don't want to be the world police. I don't want more of this NATO bullshit. I don't want more of this, like, now we have a bajillion. We have 100, instead of like 40 countries we take care of, it's 90. I don't want that at all. I only want it so far as to say, it continues to allow ourselves and our children to decide the futures for themselves and have the liberty and freedoms to do so. That's for me, and to me that's like that is the line. Like, I think that is something that you should want. And you know what? Some people do say we need to fix the states first. That's an argument to be had. I guess one way I look at it is, if what does it? Would it matter to fix the states if China will own them in 5 years? Things, etc., like that as well. And there could be, right, people. And the thing is, we don't have to get immediately angry and upset right now and start screaming. I'm just telling you, this is what's being reported right now. I don't know ultimately, and so we'll have to see. And again, from the pragmatic sense of like, I don't have a time machine. I can't walk into a time machine and tell Trump when he's like 40 years old, like, do this. We have to deal with the pieces that are on the board. We have to deal with what's actually happening. Dealing with not reality is like, well, then go be with the left, I guess, because that's what they do, and it ultimately just leads them to violence. What I will say is, this is clear and indicative, I would say tremendously, that there has been a change in the direction of what the American administration is choosing to do so. At least what they're telling people. This is obviously stark contrast to what the campaign would have led you to believe America would be doing. And that's the second one. The third one goes directly at Raytheon. So this is one of the next ones here. So this is like the most recent one, I believe. It happened around like 5:05 p.m. And this is what Andrew Tate says. He says, "Okay, Trump's back." What does he say to this? And it's Rapid Response 47. This is like the they're always coming out. They're defending Kash Patel. This might be their first Trump post ever, to be honest. And he goes at Raytheon. And he says, "I've been informed by the DOW that defense contractor Raytheon has been the least responsive to the needs of the Department of War the slowest in increasing their volume, and the most aggressive spending on their shareholders, rather than the needs and demands of the military. Raytheon needs to think this is the Biden administration, and this is business as usual. It is not. Either Raytheon steps up and starts investing in more upfront investments like planes and equipment, or they will no longer be doing business with the DOW. So it sounds like he's threatening to revoke their contract, it seems. And I'm not sure what the state of their contract is or how many different contracts they have. Not always that they've just signed one and done. A lot of it's they build and they have a continual, some are 10 years, 5 years, etc., things like that. So obviously a very strong kind of statement today towards the United States military. Now, is that for specifically because we want a $1.5 trillion budget to do world policing? Or, like I said, is this because the administration, they're not saying it, but they have deep fears of actual kind of real World War III conflict bubbling up and boiling out, by 2027. So a couple of things there. In terms of the Iranian police, I won't put the video on because the video I think will get. I think it's ultimately too violent, unfortunately. But the Iranian police commander was assassinated. Hard segue. We're going and looking at the geopolitics in Iran and Israel and just bubbling over there. The fourth front, the fifth front of the American war right now, it seems. But per AF Post, this Iranian police commander was in charge and was specifically in charge of coordinating and organizing the kind of counter-protests and the de-escalation attempts in all of the color revolution that's happening in Iran. That's largely being led by our government in Israel. And it's unfortunate because this video happens in broad daylight. It looks like the guy was either in a car or he was in a motorcycle. He rides right up next to the driver's seat and he pulls it out. And in short order, the guy is assassinated in the car going like 90 miles an hour, rams into a tree. So I'm not going to show that video, but he was assassinated. And per current report as well, in addition to that, Australia has called on all of its citizens to leave Iran immediately. And that's in addition to the fact that the Russian army has been evacuating the Russian embassy in Israel nonstop in the last 24 hours. And so the report that I have here is that there's been 3 flights in the last 24 hours and that Russia is evacuating the Russian embassy, including their families. Let me pull this up on screen for you. This is from Daily Iranian News. Urgently evacuating the staff of the Russian embassy along with their families in Israel. So it seems that Russia has gotten news, maybe via Iran, that Iran's going to begin striking Israel hard very soon. That seems to be what you're reading from there as well, too. Additionally, I would also say there's probably also an element, if you also look outside of even the Iran and Israel tensions, there's also an argument to be made that is this indicative of the United States and Russia tensions, and that Russia may fear that their embassy is being spied upon and they're pulling all their officials out for fear of what may get leaked during the tensions with the United States. So it could go a couple of different directions there. But regardless, all of it points to tensions are rising, it's escalating, and people are being told to go home. There's no tourism right now, only bombs in the air. Now, Iran is reporting that the American Delta Force is in Kurdistan, Iraq. So I'll pull that up here. That also is from Iran Daily News. Not been community noted. So as far as I understand, it seems to be that nobody's been able to debunk it so far, but it looks like the Delta Force is preparing themselves to do something similar in Iran. We'll see what that. And like I said at the top of the hour, Kim.com said expect, and it was recited, I think, by Polymarket, or reposted by Polymarket. Kim.com says expect, from what he's hearing, expect that Israel will strike Iran very soon, including, up to and including nukes, which that will be an insane thing to see. If Israel's the first person to drop a nuke in World War III, I mean, would anybody be surprised? Not even in the slightest. And to make it even better, Trump's golden boy, Mr. Lindsey Graham, busted a load on Fox News earlier today. And I'm going to have you guys take a listen to this too. Like, I mean, literally busted one, a fat one on Fox News. Literally saying verbatim this. And so I'm just going to play it. We'll watch it. It's only 20 seconds long.
Donald J. Trump is not Barack Obama. He has your back. And to the Ayatollahs, you need to understand, if you keep killing your people who are demanding a better life, Donald J. Trump is going to kill you. Change is coming to Iran. It'll be the biggest change in the history of the Mideast to get rid of this Nazi regime. To the people of Iran, help is on the way.
He's so excited. He's never wanted anything more in his entire life. Never wanted anything more in his entire life than to see regime change in Iran. And it's insane, dude. It's sad. It's disgusting. And like, that's aggressive. And it's wild to even think, too, the Fox News host, even like halfway tried to stop him from saying it. But that's who Iran's siding with. Or not siding with. That's who Trump is siding with. Whose team are you on? Lindsey Graham or Thomas Massie? I don't even have to think about it. And that brings us essentially to where I was at from what I collected and aggregated from earlier today to cover the majority of what's happening between Iran, Greenland, Russia, and Minneapolis. And so I'm sure there's even more if I even go to the homepage, which I will here in a second. But just a couple of smaller ones I wanted to bring to your attention. I won't play it, but just to show you, just again, there was a smaller kind of side story that Sal from the Impractical Jokers had. He said his team on TikTok had posted his tour, and that the trending music tab had one of Nick's quotes in there, Nick Fuentes' quotes in there, and then they just used that, and then I think he took it down and he apologized about it, and so he backed away, and so that was unfortunate. I think some people were like saying like Impractical Joker Groiper, you know, they're like, really? They're like, is Sal really a Groiper? Which is funny. And the other snippet was the ex-Mossad chief talking about bombs in all countries you can imagine. And it looks like this was a conversation that was taking place in Europe. I think they were in London. I can't remember who is interviewing him, but just a short 1.5-minute clip just reveals so much. And so you have this from, again, take it from a grain of salt. It's from a geopolitical Palestinian. Only 61 likes? What? Dude, how many Somalians are in my chat right now, dude? Is there fraud? Guys, I need to investigate my chat for fraud. Anyways, ex-Mossad chief admits that Israel has planted bombs in most countries on Earth. And like many people had feared after the 15-year pager operation was laid out in full, that how many other operations are now similar as this and how widespread is it? And if anybody knows how the NUMEC operation and what they did with radiator trucks to get nuclear materials evacuated out of America into Israel when they stole nuclear materials from us, this should be no surprise to you in the way that they will manipulate equipment, if you will. So take a listen to this.
Did you see any surprises in Gaza?
Surprises?
Yeah.
Like intelligence surprises?
Pages, walkie-talkies. Do you know how many treated equipment do we have in these countries? You don't. I do.
You mean booby-trapped equipment?
Not only booby-trapped.
And spying.
Manipulated equipment. All right?
In which countries are you talking about?
All the countries that you can imagine.
And not Gaza?
Not Gaza.
Nothing in Gaza at all.
Did you see that? If we had it, I mean, we knew something about them coming. Something, right? Would have sold them everything. Just everything. I mean, you can't imagine the quantity. When I have invented that method, that was in 2002 to 2004.
The pager method.
The manipulated equipment method. Okay? We have already used it.
Oh, they knew.
Manipulated equipment.
We know they knew.
In Second Lebanon War, some of the elements were speaking to us.
How did you use it?
He just laughs, dude.
Want a glass of water?
We can get some brandy.
He just laughs, dude. He asks him, so how did you do it? And he just laughs, dude. You have to watch this, okay? He's bringing up what seems to be the first time that even in the Second Lebanon War, they had used elements of this manipulated equipment. And so what did you say?
Of the elements were speaking to us.
How did you use it?
How'd you use it?
Want a glass of water?
We can get some brandy.
He can tell you, but he didn't.
I know it's an early morning in London. I mean, I don't think that is the case. But how did we do it? I tell you.
So, I would like to see that full interview, to be honest with you. I'm going to bookmark that.
Did you see any surprises?
Ask Rock to help me find it later on. So the whole world is being blackmailed, seems to be. And that's also part of what the Samson option is too as well. And ultimately, there are certain hemispheres that are in this kind of the nuclear gridlock. and this is, again, the number one deterrent from regime change around the world, is a nuke. The dude's entire aura screams, I bubble millions. I mean, truth be told, it does come across like that is a very rich individual, to be honest. Not possible anyway. And that's part of it. And that's also, too, I don't know, maybe if you guys were here when I reported on this, but this is about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago now at this point, that they are now divesting, I think it was somewhere around $115 billion, Israel is, to begin the infrastructure to develop their own independent military industrial complex. And I think it's because they see the writings on the wall, is that if we start ending aid to Israel, they're going to need to start getting some weapons from somewhere. And they already have the technology and the facilities, so for them, it'd just be a matter of putting the upfront money for the overhead costs, and then they'll start doing it themselves, which is unfortunate. But again, this should have been ended a long time ago, and here we are. But like I said, big hat bombs, big hat bombs, bad. Little hat bombs, good. And it's like, dude, how many people are going to talk about how they put they strap their bombs in their chest and they scream Allah Akbar and they do that? But at the same time, like, what's more terrifying? Not knowing what equipment you pick up might have a Mossad bomb in it, like, or seeing a brown guy with a big coat on. And really, to be honest, what's the difference? Is there a difference? Is there a meaningful difference besides the technological difference? Not really, not in my opinion. And one thing before I go back to the home feed to see if there's anything new to update with, is this was a citizen journalist that I caught just by chance that went to Ohio. I won't play the whole thing because part of the guy's just like, the guy just sounds weird on it. And he says, holy smokes, Ohio Somali daycare worker just went berserk on citizen journalists walking inside to ask where to sign up. And it happens very quickly right off the rip. And this is why I said to people, if you're trying to do it in Columbus, please do it very responsibly. Do not take women in there with you. That's retarded. But here it is.
Get back! Get back! Get back!
Don't touch me! Don't touch me!
Get back!
Don't touch me! Don't touch me!
Get back! Get back! Get back!
Holy shit, he just pushed me.
I'm calling the police. Wait. Don't call the police.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
I bet it's funny. So he just talked about how they get kicked out, but I mean, it was an immediate reaction. And you have to imagine, as much as like the Somali community might probably talks amongst themselves from Minnesota to Ohio, I would imagine too that the handlers of these people, because the Somalians didn't start defrauding everybody by themselves, the handlers of these people who are aware of the fraud and are probably benefiting from it, probably is also communicating. It's probably also. So, just to show you that Ohio, and that's got like 6,000 likes too. It's happening in Ohio. This guy goes to talk about it. I really don't care what he has to say. He's an idiot for taking a woman with him. But be safe. I will say that. Be safe. Definitely be safe. That brings us to the end of what I had aggregated. I do want to revisit the timeline for a hot minute to see if anything's kind of fresh there. We'll see. Just so people know, I'm going to take it off screen for the time being because, dude, the amount of like, Grok, put her in a bikini stuff I've been on the timeline. It's just like, it's depressing, to be honest. And this is the one platform you can search up anything and you will get porn. I have to tell you guys this because this blew me away. So everybody who might know, I'm a gamer. I've been a gamer, not nearly as much anymore. But one of the old games I played way back in the day, this is an Unk moment, this is a boomer moment, Knights of the Old Republic. One of my favorite games of all time. In my opinion, a masterpiece. And I don't think any RPGs come close to it, to be honest with you. And then there's also the second one. I wanted to search because there's a new Knights of the Old Republic coming out. That's, oh, thank you for the membership. I appreciate that. Who did that? Was it Todd Sullivan? No, it's AI World Champion. Hey, thank you very much, brother. Appreciate you greatly. Didn't see how many that was. I appreciate that though. But a new Knights of the Republic is supposedly in the works and it's coming out. I literally searched, and I'm not going to do it because I'm not going to show you because it's so gross. I typed KOTOR. So it's the acronym, Knights of the Old Republic. Just KOTOR in my search bar on X. Dude, before I got anything related to Star Wars, it was just 4 or 5 porn videos. Why KOTOR is a tag word for these things? I have no idea. Maybe you guys could tell me, but I have no idea. And it was just like mind blowing. But I was just thinking, I was like, dude, imagine if I would have done that on stream. Imagine if I was like, hey guys, let me just shoot this game I wanted to see on stream. So like, that's why I'm going to just be safe for the time being. Okay, this is insane. This is, wow. Obviously it's getting dark out, guys. But again, thank you and salute to AI World Champion for the memberships, brother. I appreciate that greatly. Put this on screen for you. This is aerial video of Minneapolis. Let me read the caption here first. Shows thousands of protesters and community members with candles gathered in Minneapolis at the site where 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good was killed in an ICE-involved incident. Thousands are chanting F ICE, calling for justice. Here's this. This is crazy. Did anybody have Tim Walz starting the Civil War on their bingo card? Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Unbelievable. Although I'm sure it would look up, we'd probably have a better figure if we saw it in the day. I would imagine even it being at night, so it's hard to tell how big it is, but it seems to be at least a decently big presence. I would expect more, and again, this is just directly in the hours after. I mean, people haven't even had enough time to get off work or even know what's going on, right? If you're working a job there, let me keep going and see if there's anything else here. Oh, here's another one. Oh my gosh, dude. This is from Nick Sortor. Oh, man.
Rise up! Take a stand! Rise up! Take a stand! Rise up! Take a stand! Stolen land! No illegal stolen land! No illegal stolen land! No illegal stolen land!
Come accountable. Pay attention to who uses their voice. This isn't the time to
Or
be silent.
destroyed is being
This is the
summoned.
time to rise up and continue to
That's
fight
funny.
for the people. Rest in peace.
It's like the Iron Man moment. All of a sudden, George Floyd stands up in the middle of the crowd. He says, I'm George Droid. And then his suit flies on him. He's like, I'm here to find the Fent. He takes off. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, it's hilarious, dude. That was hilarious. But that's just unfortunate, man. I did see some people in response were taking down the Minnesota flag and they were, burning the Minnesota flag. A black queen is speaking. Pipe down. A black queen is speaking. We was queens. This is great. Oh man. So it looks like we got the CNN spun article here. This is lovely. All right, let's take a listen to this. This is from Colin Rugg. Supposedly this is a CNN segment from a witness talking about how ICE is in the wrong. Oh, and thank you for the super chat. This is from Armitage Prepper. If they have low yield and dirty devices in all major cities. If nations disobey, they can hash the hidden Easter eggs and blame any other nation they want. And I would imagine, I think that was the best speculation most people had immediately after the pager operation. And knowing how much of these other kind of Israeli technologies are in other different devices too, namely the one that we talked about where Tom Brady lives, the radar system in which on the island that he lives on, they use it there. And the crazy thing is, if that is the case, and one of the other stories that we really didn't get any news about after at all was when the New Jersey had all of the kind of the flooding and the flying of all of the kind of drones circulating everywhere around Jersey. And people were like, what is it for? What were they? And there were all these different reports. Somebody was saying it's because like Ukraine lost a nuclear warhead. Other people were saying, it's aliens or it was drone test. So I would imagine it does seem to be like we have there could be an element of we don't really have a strong chain of custody or idea of what may actually be in this country in terms of like, terror cells and things like that, what may actually be ready and willing to be activated. So here we go. This is yeah, I know, it just disappeared. It completely disappeared. I do not know why the audio is cutting out. I apologize. What's crazy is somebody said that my phone that has it on the burner, it also cut the audio out here too. I don't know why it's doing that. So I'm sorry, guys. Apparently can a wiggle live? All right, here it is.
Emily Heller is out front now, who you heard there and filmed that in that horrifically traumatic moment. So Emily, I know you live there. This is your street. This is your home. And you're inside your house. You hear all of this commotion. Everything is starting to happen. Okay, can you tell me what happened then? You hear everything. You come outside, and then what?
I hadn't even gotten dressed. I was making breakfast. I went out. I heard the commotion. I heard whistles, which is the common.
You've had to do it multiple times now, Travis. I would imagine other people are experiencing this too, and if they are, they're probably just logging off. I mean, I wouldn't want to deal with that too if it kept cutting the audio out. It's annoying. I don't know, man. Did it do it again on this one? It did. What the hell? But if I click on it again, it's right back. Hey, YouTube, you can S my D. I wonder why. So some people have had no issues and some people have. That's weird. I don't know. Maybe it's a device thing. I'm not sure. LOL the Marble said it's happened 4 times now. I don't know, man. Dang. Well, I appreciate you for fighting through YouTube's issues. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. Atlas 2.0 is helping to build the Hyundai USA plant. Sounds absolutely miserable. Can I think of a worse car brand than Hyundai, to be honest with you? But back to this. Here's the witness crying about ICE doing their jobs and ICE trying to save this country.
Been sign of ICE is nearby, and I went out onto my front porch. I didn't even have shoes on, and within the 60 seconds, everything had already gone down. But there was an ICE convoy that seemed to be stuck, and then there was a protester who was blocking traffic, so they couldn't progress. And she was totally peaceful, and ICE, it seemed, completely unorganized. They didn't really know what they were doing. They were screaming at her to move, and then they approached her vehicle aggressively and tried to open her door. And then that's when she got spooked, and she reversed her vehicle to turn her wheels to try to escape.
Oh no! Federal agents just told me to get out of the car. What do I do? Run them over! This is so stupid. It's so dumb. And I can only assume this lady was the one that we saw in the other video. She doesn't look like that lady, but I assume maybe it's not. But regardless, there's a bunch of them like screaming, right? Hey, dude, I am not Albanian, dude. Take that back. Put some respect on me. I'm not Albanian. I don't know what I am, but I'm not Albanian. I am honorary Italian for the time being. North African.
And that's when an ICE agent stepped in front of her vehicle and said, stop. And then, I mean, she was already moving, and then point blank shot her through her windshield in the face.
I can't imagine what it was to see that, Emily. The way that you are laying this out, though, I just want to repeat and make sure that I'm clear, and please correct me if I say anything wrong. You're saying that what you saw was...
You think it's murder, Pablo Pastor? I think you are in the vast minority.
Disorganized ICE, but then when they tried to get her to stop, she got spooked. She reversed her car to turn her wheels to get away.
On the other side, I guess.
And that was when the officer stepped in front.
No. To me, like, not even close. And I'm glad, if he's still in here, shout out to him. It was Hippocratic pointed out to rewatch the video with the audio. We rewatched it. You can hear very clearly one of the officers told her twice to get out of the vehicle after she was already illegally blocking the road. So she didn't listen to an officer. She took off. Granted, I do get the urgency element of it too. But at the same time, there's another angle. I can go and find it, honestly, while we have the time, while we're here, just to show it, that he was struck. Now, to what degree and how heavily that can be, it's obviously going to be a bit subjective, but no, not so far. She's innocent until proven guilty. Like, to me, that is okay. I want you to have that same energy, Pablo Pastor, when an intruder breaks into your home and he's doing unspeakable things to your family. Don't do anything, because he needs to go to the court first. Don't defend yourself. I'm not disagreeing there's a right to a trial, but the only thing is like, the officers also have a right to self-defense too. Now, at the same point, though, we know that she's being a clear agitator. She was doing this specifically to disrupt the operation. And the thing is, it's like, no, dude, I'm not Albanian, dude. That's funny. Well, dude, I don't want to do a DNA test. I don't want people to have my DNA, but it's looking like I'm vastly approaching needing to. I'll have to put that out there. I'll have to put it out there. I have no idea, to be honest with you. The truth is, I literally have no idea. Ultimately, though, I wouldn't say it's murder at all. I don't think it meets the standard there whatsoever. Could it be something else than that? It could be argued in the courts. Regardless, though, she was by far in the wrong. By far and away in the wrong. You know what? Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. We know this lady's just going to say BS. I'll save this. I'll bookmark this. What I will do is, I had an angle, at least I thought I did, of a better angle, I should say, of the car. Let me find that. Angle, strike, federal. Korean thugged? No. Camera angle, Minneapolis. I might have just straight up bookmarked it, to be honest with you. So there it is. This is the one I saw. He's in front of the vehicle. The car clearly strikes him here. Let me make it bigger, so it's not so blurry. Officer's right here. We'll watch it a few times. What crime did she commit? Well, for one, she's blocking the road. You can't just park your car in the middle of the road, and especially not in the middle of one that's already been. You can see the way the cars are all parked, and they've been stopped on that road. So for one, she's already encroaching upon the officers there. So you're asking, what crime did she commit? Do you understand how insane that is? Like, I'm just gonna be honest with you, how insane it is that this person, not only before she did this, was told to get out of her vehicle and stop by 2 federal agents. She's hitting them with her vehicle even. And you're asking, what crime did she commit? I guess I'm not understanding what the logic is there. Like, you would have to dig so deep into the bag to find some kind of semantic defense of this, that it's like, she knew what she was doing. We don't even know if she actually lived in Minneapolis. There's reports that these plates on this vehicle specifically were from Missouri. So there's thoughts that she literally drove out of her way to be an agitator. Who knows if she's even being paid? She might not be. I won't say that. But she's clearly, she violated the law by not listening to the officer who told her. That would be the basic defense you'd give to a black dude for not listening to a cop who's told him 3 times, put your hands on the steering wheel. No, and don't like attack him. We need to have these conversations with people. Don't attack Pablo personally. He's been here for a hot minute. But just to say, like, I guess to me, that is just an incredibly weak argument to make, and I do think you're by far like in the wrong. Don't attack Pablo. Pablo's been in here for. We can disagree. Let's have some breathing room. Let him get up. But I would just say no. I would say by far and away, like, no, not even close. Not even close. And that'll be what gets played in court, but who knows if it's getting zoomed in like that. There's a bit of artifacting when you zoom into video like that too. And that is true. For from King Troll there as well. And different states have different laws on this now too, but Florida, I know for a fact Florida has it in there like that, which is they have deemed the use of your vehicle in these situations is a weapon, but also on the inverse, it is like if you are if you're not a protester, if you're surrounded by protesters, you're allowed to defend yourself with a vehicle. So they have, I think on both sides there in Florida, covered that on the law. Yes, St. George Floyd, please pray for us. That would be the thing too. I need to see some more about it, to be covered there, which was was the perimeter already set? Or was it like they in the moment they were doing that? It'll get adjudicated in court, I would imagine. At least the officers would be under trial, I would expect. But let's switch here. Yeah, we're going to get a bunch of these weird ads. I want to not see that, but I want to see if there's any more new stuff on the timeline. There is. Here's one. This is the James Fishback and Tucker Carlson episode. Apparently was already recorded, and it may be coming out in a couple following days. I would imagine Tucker's going to wait for this to die down a little bit. Oh, Adam, back from studio. You accidentally hit him instead of timeout. Word. Okay. Pablo, I'm sorry. I don't... It's going to take me a minute to get to that on my back end in studio. Let me do that. Let me go do that, Pablo. I'm not going to... And you're fine, Tix. Don't worry about it. Let me find it. Boomer moment. No, Tix, you're completely fine. Do not worry about it, man. I don't care. I will bring him back though. Did Fishback go on the backlash? That's awesome. I'll throw this out there. Me and the Backlash may share a sponsor. I'll throw that little piece out there. So that'll give you a bit more of a hint of who reached out to me earlier today. YouTube Studio. Hopefully it doesn't mess up the live stream. It shouldn't, I don't think. Community. Thank you for the super chat, Josh. I appreciate it. Let me put it on screen here. Dog, I'm gonna be honest with you. I am a boomer when it comes to the back end of YouTube. I know how to unhide people on my phone. I don't know how to hide it here on the back end on YouTube. Pablo, please don't leave us. I will unhide you when I get done with the stream. I just can't find it here. That's funny. Okay. But going back to that, okay, so he's just shadow banned. So he's probably here, just no one can see him. Okay. Sorry, Pablo. But thank you, Joshua Vanderdoor. Let me go back to Jalsh's super chat. He says, great show, Atlas. Can't wait for Trump chickening out because of this. We are screwed come 2028. And we'll see. That seems to be, some people do think it's a bit more of the red meat, less so actionable. Maybe it will be, we'll start backtracking a lot of this stuff. We'll see. Hopefully not. I've not seen anything too crazy so far that's been insane. It looks like nobody's put it into the chat either for me to go and look up. So it looks like nothing, that insane has happened, besides obviously all the protests that we're seeing here. Lockheed Martin stocks already recovered. That's insane. That literally is insane. Look at this. That's crazy. Tick said studio settings community. Studio settings community. Oh, it's going to make me have to find him. I found him. Pablo, you've been saved. Pablo, you're back. You have been saved. Thank you, Tix. I appreciate you, man. I just got him out of there. I didn't realize there were that many hidden users. Holy crap. There's a lot of them in there, dude. You guys have been putting in work. That's funny. But that essentially brings it to the end of where I'm at. I'm just talking in circles now at this point. He's back, dude. Just okay. He didn't leave. Okay, cool. That's awesome. I wanted there to be room for disagreement. And I'm sure there are some people, probably those who are a lot closer to the anti-interventionists, the libertarian crowds who are, genuinely unhappy with the level of just violence across the board, whether it's for the nation state itself, for the state, or for just what's happening in Minneapolis there and those kind of more specific environments there too. I guess I'll address this here before I go. I was running for the border. Oh, it's funny. The Glad 7940 says, Atlas, what's your thoughts on Venezuela and what do you think about Nick's reaction? Sorry late joining if you've already covered this earlier in stream. I have, but I have no problem addressing it again. I covered it on the day after, which was probably one of my most like disliked streams, which still didn't even break below 90%, which is cool. Thank you guys. When I covered the Maduro captured, so that's when I first covered it. And you can find the clip, I re-aired it there, which was that first class clips. One of the top clippers from Nick Fuentes pulled a clip from 2019. And in this clip, it talks about Nick Fuentes having his full support and endorsement behind the Monroe Doctrine, so far as it is in terms of our posterity as a nation and our benefit and our interest, not nation building, which was his immediate, he was pro, and then immediately when it looked like we were taking control of Venezuela, he seemingly backed off and got hesitant, Nick did, when he posted, saying, I don't like what I'm seeing about the nation building element of this, or this, we're taking control of it, or this kind of talks and this rhetoric that makes you think that this is going to be longer than a couple of day thing. What he did like about it was that it wasn't a kind of boots on the ground war. It was an exceptional strike that took place in less than what seemed like it was an hour or so. We got video clips that was comparing it to Will's gay speech in Stranger Things was actually longer. So Will's gay speech in Stranger Things is like 4.5 minutes long. The operation to get Maduro was 4 minutes and 13 seconds long. So it seems like the line here is, and again, and what I will say with this too, what I said earlier in the stream itself here, was some people I think who maybe have recently joined and started watching Nick and been following him from his coverage with Iran and Israel and the Israel wars have maybe built a false premise in their heads or came to the wrong conclusion that they thought that Nick was a anti-interventionist, or that they think that he's flip-flopping, when in reality, again, to go back to the 2019 clip, this is exactly where he was at, very consistent. And I think maybe it was because primarily what he has covered the last few months or year or so has been America's involvement at the behest of wars in the Middle East for Israel's benefit, which is a whole different framing to say than a Latin American war and a political conflict about resources on our home front. You say home front, but Latin America is considerably closer and much more reasonable to say strategically there would be benefit and American benefit there too. One thing I think that people are also getting confused, that Beardson made a great point of when he was going with Doomernet, was Beardson made the point, and I made the point too when I first addressed it, but I'll reference Beardson, which was that you can't sit here and say Israel controls America and has controlled America for some time, which obviously is true, but then also be like shocked and surprised that when things benefit Israel, they also benefit America, or vice versa. And so I would go back to Sam Parker's question, which is he thinks it's not a question of does it benefit America or does it benefit Israel. He said the question to ask is in terms of relativity. Who does this move benefit more? Does it benefit more Americans relative to Israel, or does it benefit Israel more than it benefits Americans? And so with that all being said, not everything seems to be on the table so far, and I wouldn't say that we have all the answers so far. I would say, like I said the first day, we should wait and see a bit more. But also, too, like I think Hippocratic or somebody else, forgive me, put forward earlier, Pat Buchanan was also a defender of the Monroe Doctrine as well. So that is to say, ultimately, though, these things need to be watched with a very vigilant eye. We need to make sure that these things are moving in the right direction. And it seems to be that is the status quo of the Trump administration. We have to chimp, seemingly constantly. We have to chimp and be in the ear of Trump over and over and over again, and through the administration. And I think it's obvious with the Newswire quote that we have the right policy. Why is the public so against it? He has no idea. And Sneeko did crash out over a little bit. I think it's fair to say he did crash out over it. And he's crashing out over it because there's Christians in Venezuela and America killed Christians. And while there are arguments to be made in there, and I will reference again Timothy Gordon's The Just War Framing, and also the nuance in there to say, well, is it even a war? There is a lot to kind of hash out. And I do think ultimately, though, we have to be pragmatic. I will always come to the pragmatic angle, which is what I said then. I don't have a time machine. I can't walk through and like save Maduro and, and like, show up in his bedroom and be like, hey, dude, you have 5 minutes. America be here. You got to go. It's happened. We have to deal with it. What I would say that makes me think that this is all tantamount to being a bunch of ridiculous theater is what I said again, which was we had all of the evidence that we needed to organize for months this full-blown extraction of Maduro, but we're going to put him on trial? To me, that makes no sense. To me, it's like he's Venezuelan, so why are we giving him American rights? That seems to be, for one, this is the first thing. But two, the biggest and most obvious thing is like, you're telling me we had all the wherewithal, all the conviction, all the evidence that we needed to go and pull that all off in Venezuela, to control their government, but we might need to see if he can even be convicted in our own courts. The courts that we know are filled with like Biden judges and these pro-Zionists, just idiots, and these like, and all these DEI hires, like, what? And even so, on top of that too, following the news that the Department of Justice, and this should have been a bigger news, honestly, I should have talked about it earlier, but the Department of Justice has already walked away from the claim that Maduro was like the head of the Sons of whatever that drug cartel was called. And now Polymarket has high chances that he's not even going to be found guilty on all charges. To me, that is just like, that's just insane to me, honestly. So, again, a lot to be seen with that. It's not over yet. It's only simply started, and I'm sure we will see what happens in the aftermath from there. But again, that's kind of where I'm at today. Civil War in Minneapolis, apparently. World War III, apparently. I guess we're rooting for Greenland to be on our team. But that is essentially what I had prepared for you guys today. Tomorrow, you should be getting a video from me and probably going back to a bit more casual stream like we got yesterday, and we'll see what happens in the aftermath. I will be paying attention as well, too. A couple ideas for what the video will be about tomorrow. But as always, Christ is King. I appreciate you guys tremendously for being here, and I cannot articulate enough how much I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate the support you guys get. Show could not be possible without it, and I wouldn't even do it if I didn't have an audience, to be honest with you. Nobody wants to talk to nobody. But thank you very much. I do appreciate you guys greatly. Christ is King. As always, seek first the kingdom of God. That has to be your priority. Deport Kash Patel, jail him, whatever it takes to get this Indian out of office. He should have never been there in the first place. And I will say it once more, get women out of the public spotlight. Get women out of public office. Put them where they belong as God intended, being wives and mothers to children and taking care of the home. And God willing, ladies and gentlemen, we will get our country back. Christ is King. I'm rooting for you guys, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out. Christ is Lord.